what's going on, Jets fans? Welcome to Jets Today, episode 46. Hold on, I gotta get this phony of a guest. How you doing, James?
What's going on, John?
Not too much. We got Tyler Conklin. It is officially official. I broke literally just a few minutes ago, and I didn't even see the news until you text me.
Yeah, I knew
Pretty
that was your
excited.
guy.
Yeah, I like him. I think it's good. Conk. It's not Gronk. It's Conk. I
Yeah,
like
there
it.
you go.
Just got another tight end. Let's go. James, we'll start the show with this because it is breaking news. We won't go to anything other than this. Talk about why you think this is a big signing, the importance of getting another tight end along with CJ Uzomah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it seemed like, and we were talking about this before, it seemed like Douglas last year, in the first year of the LaFleur, being the offensive coordinator, maybe underestimated the need or the importance of the tight end. And I don't want to say maybe underestimate, but maybe thought that he could get by with what we had already. I think Tyler Croft was the only addition last offseason. And now you have two really good. You have two tight ends who can play right in your system. CJ Uzomah, we'll talk about him, and now Tyler Conklin. But you can run that 12 personnel. Mike LaFleur can run the 12 personnel. And kind of move on sort of with his system, the run game, and be more flexible personnel wise for the Jets and not have to say, okay, if we go 12 personnel, we have to throw these guys out there who haven't been able to do or get the job done. So I think it provides a lot of offensive flexibility, and we may not be done adding to the tight end room because it's a pretty deep draft there as well.
Yeah, I want to get to this comment. Angel Garcia, he is asking. He's not saying it's not a need. And Angel, to answer your question, I think it's weird. It's not a need, but I think it's still a position that they have to address in the draft. And maybe it doesn't have to be in round 2. And we just saw somebody, Stephen Engel, say, probably not. I mean, there's no guarantees though, because I was just talking to James a few seconds ago. CJ Uzomah is 29 years old. He's had some injuries in the past, so there's no guarantees with him, certainly. And so, yeah, I think that in a tight end rich draft class, I think you got to go ahead and get another one. It's good to see some familiar faces in here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Christopher bleeped himself. I appreciate that. He says, how the do you even get a draft pick for Blake Cashman? Might be the best trade ever. It is an impressive one, right? Because we all know that it's not like the most like intense value ever. Like he's not getting first round picks in this trade, but to get anything for Blake Cashman feels like a pretty big win. And we will talk about that a little bit more. We got Jason Rhodes in here. Been a long time. Good to see you, buddy. And then Owen kind of lists off our tight end room. And he adds a name that's not drafted, not signed yet, but he adds Jeremy Ruckert. I think that we're seeing that the Jets kind of like those tight ends to be able to do a little bit of everything. Blocking, also receiving. I think if I remember correctly, CJ Uzomah was one of the better pass blocking tight ends last season. Am I wrong in that? I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah, no, and that's what he did for most of his career. His breakout like receiving year was really last year, or I should say when Joe Burrow arrived, because he had a short stint with Burrow in 2020 where he started to get targeted a lot, then got injured, and then he picked off where he started the 2020 season last year. So the receiving threat is a little bit new, it feels like, for Uzomah, and it looks like the number on Tyler Conklin is 3 years, 21 million.
Good. He's 27 years old, and if you guys haven't watched the free agency predictions video that I put out a few days ago, I did put down Conklin as the guy that I thought we would go after. I was kind of disappointed. I like CJ Uzomah, and I think he probably is tight end 1. But I actually like the short / kind of like medium term fix that he provides. I think he should be here for the next couple of seasons. And
Right.
he's just now entering his prime and kind of broke out last year, got his opportunity, made the most of it. So I think it's exciting. I think I love, what they've decided to do with the tight end position. El Medina 72, he says, let's go ahead and get a linebacker at 38. I'm going to ask you about this, James, because I saw a report from Connor Hughes, and he said that basically the Jets are thinking, and internally, I should say, they're thinking that maybe linebacker isn't a very big need on this team. And I guess what he was referencing is that the defensive line needs more work than the linebacking core. And I guess you could make the case for that. I just feel like linebacker still is a pretty big need. Thoughts on maybe what Connor suggested, and then also the idea of taking a linebacker early. Personally, I think I like the idea of taking one early.
Yeah, I like the idea of taking one early, and I saw that same report from Connor, and DJ also kind of alluded to that when we spoke to him, that they don't see it as big of a need as we do, because they like Quincy and they like CJ, but at the same time, who else do we have beyond those two, right? We just traded Blake Cashman, which I don't think we were expecting anything from him, but Jared Davis, right? I mean, he wasn't good last year. I don't think he's coming back. So you got to add someone in there, and then you go on top of that of how long is CJ Mosley going to play. So I do think it would be beneficial if they like someone really early to take him maybe in that second round. I don't think we'll see it at 4 or 10 unless we trade back. But I do think I think it's a bigger need personally. I think it's a bigger need than I guess the Jets front office does. But I think we're going to see a lot of defense here in the next few or early in the draft.
Yeah, that's something that we'll talk a lot about tonight, and it's something that I posted a poll this morning talking about what is your new scenario at 4 and 10. And kudos to the person that messaged me and said this, but he said, why not double dip edge? And I don't know if they'll do that. I'm not saying they will, but it's not the craziest thing. 2 edge rushers in the top 10. I mean, I remember when the 49ers, when they went crazy and just added edge rusher after edge rusher in that offseason. I don't know if they'll do that, but damn. Let's go really aggressive on the defense in this draft. I'm really starting to feel like that is the momentum right now. Mm-hmm. So we'll get to that. We'll talk about all these things. Guys, if you're joining us right now, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. Would love you guys to check out some of the content that we have going on Jets Today. So let's go to some more comments. Marcus the Entertainer. And he does say this is a question. Is McBride no longer a priority? Because he's the heartthrob of many Jets fans right now. He's the guy that, we've been talking a lot about this offseason. So what do you think? Is he a priority, or is he somebody that's a luxury?
I would lean towards maybe somewhere in the middle. Not, I thought about this the other day now in terms of the flexibility of the draft. Like if someone does fall, right, and they're at 35 and let's just say they needed to go tight end, they didn't make these signings and they're like, hey, we really like this player that's sitting at 26 or 27, but if we trade X, Y, and Z pick to get him, which would probably have to be 35 or 38, we may miss out on the tight end. Like I feel like now they have that flexibility to go up and say, okay, we may miss out on tight end 1, but we may be able to get tight end 2 or 3 later on at 69, let's just say. So I think it's something that they're going to think about, but I don't think it'll be a top-notch priority. And we kind of spoke about this before. The tight end position for rookies is a difficult transition to make. So now you have the veterans that can kind of bring him along. And so I think it's still a level of a priority because you want to provide for the future, but not in a sense to where it would prevent them from going up and getting someone that they really like and not feel like they missed out on a tight end.
Good stuff. All right. Anthony Coleman, he's kind of giving kudos to Joe Douglas, who I think is having a very, very strong offseason. And it's not just the top guys. It's also bringing back our own. Berrios, Flacco, I think, is a savvy move to bring him back. I think it's great that he that he finally wants us back after so long of wanting him to love us. We finally have Flacco back for a second year in a row. And they also have Dan Feeney, who I think is a decent backup at this point. I think that's what we're kind of banking on. And he will not be a starter, will not compete for a starting spot. I think that the offensive line is set. And so now we've got some legitimate depth, and I think that's what this draft is going to be. Is we're going to start to see, hopefully, them taking players and not having to rely on them playing every down, and especially the defensive players that we take, whom I still think we're going to go pretty heavy in this draft class defensively. It would be nice if they just started out with a role, and maybe that's not the case with this defense, but I'm hopeful in the near future that we're not throwing these guys right out, right away. Kind of like the Jamian Sherwood situation. He had to play early. Like, I would really like to see us not have to do that in the future. Okay, lots of comments here. I've seen this one as well. Let's talk about this. We'll do this comment, and then we'll go to we have only one mailbag this week. I think a lot of people are just wanting to talk about free agency.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So not a lot of mailbag questions here. Let's see. NY Jets super fan. He says, how about a defensive end at 4 and defensive tackle Davis from Georgia at 10? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is an interesting one to me because in the Jets X Factor group chat, there are a lot of guys that are like, hey, Jordan Davis. I mean, obviously Jordan Davis, he's just, how do you say it? Like, just doesn't make much sense of a human being the way he is. There's only one way to really put it that way. He shouldn't be moving like that. I don't know if you saw the clips of him at his pro day this morning.
I did.
At Georgia, and the way he was running, changing direction at that size, it just doesn't, it doesn't come around often. I'm just worried about the actual position itself, right? Like if we do get the D end at 4, we haven't made any additions to the wide receiver room yet. If Garrett Wilson is sitting there at 10 or Drake London is sitting there at 10, do you make the defensive tackle pick instead? And not to say that he wouldn't contribute. My one worry about him is the stamina aspect, right? Against Alabama, the first time around, we kind of saw him get stifled. He didn't have much gas towards the end of the game. Can he keep up that stamina at that size? Doing those things for a full 4 quarters, whereas the fourth quarter, we need our best players in. We need a stop. Is he going to have the juice to go? He very well may. The game I watched against Alabama in the SEC championship, he didn't. And it's not a knock on the guy because I mean, listen, if you're carrying around that weight, you're going to get tired too. It's just nature. Nature does kick in at a certain point, but I just worry about the defensive tackle at 10. Are we reverting back to the old ways? I think, I don't know where they can go, but, is a Devontae Wyatt going to be there at 35 instead? Can we wait for that defensive tackle? I think we can. Is Perion Winfrey, can we wait for 35 or 38 for him? I think given the number 10 overall pick, I just don't know if I'm there yet for defensive tackle, despite the traits of the player himself.
Yeah. I think the thing is it's intriguing. I'm not on that boat by any means. And I do want to go back to the comment that I made about double dipping on edge. I would not do that. It's just fun to think about. It's fun to think about that scenario and what it would do for our defense. And a lot of people are throwing this in the comments. And I will say the poll that I ran this morning, it was asking, what's your scenario? The dominant winner, clear-cut winner, and there were hundreds of votes. It was over 70% of the people voted edge wide receiver with picks 4 and 10. I'm leaning that way. I feel like that's got to be the way. I don't care what you say about, Berrios, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. Adding another wide receiver to me, I think, is a top priority along with adding an edge. That's your scenario, do you think? Like if you're picking right now, barring who's available, that's what you would do probably, right?
Yeah, that's where I would go. If Thibodeau is there at 4. He's the pick. He's got to be. We haven't added to the edge room. So if he's there, he's got to be the pick. And then at 10, if they don't make any adds to this wide receiver room, you got to add somebody. And if you have your pick of the litter at 10, you may not. But if you do, I would go that route at 10 and try to bring someone in that on the outside can now help. Zach Wilson, you could line him up with Corey Davis, Elijah Moore. If you're in that 12 personnel, you only need 2 wide receivers. He doesn't have to play and, a large amount of minutes right off the bat. He can kind of work his way in, certain sets, certain personnel sets. So I'm leaning that way because we still need those playmakers at the edge and at the wide receiver spot.
Yes, and I do have a counter argument here a little bit. It looks like John Hassel. Thank you for the comment. He says, I don't see what reaching for a wide receiver at 10 does. And with the way the Jets substitute, I'm not worried about anyone getting tired. I think he's talking about on the defensive line with that one. So there are the other people, the people who didn't vote for wide receiver edge. They seem to think that of all of the positions that can be drafted, wide receivers one of the riskiest in round 1, and there's definitely a lot of credence to that statement. Are you worried at all about the risk factors with taking, let's just blanket statement here, any wide receiver? I personally am not afraid. I think scared money doesn't make money, and I think you gotta take the risks. Too many good wide receivers have been drafted early in the drafts. ADB29, thank you for subscribing. What do you think? Are you willing to take the risk even though it's a riskier position in the draft?
Yeah, I am, because I'd rather take the risk with the pick at wide receiver than not take the risk.
Right.
And the situation becomes something like we saw in Buffalo at the end of the year, where, okay, we don't make the investment because it's too risky, and we're gonna bank on a 3rd round guy who we think could have that potential. And then all of a sudden, an Elijah Moore goes down, Corey Davis goes down, and you can't have the depth that you want at the wide receiver spot. You don't have that guy that you kind of believe in. And not to say the 10th overall pick is going to have a better career than the 3rd rounder, but I do think there is that level of investment that you sometimes have to make to get your guy at that point in time.
Sean McAteer finally made it to the show. Yeah, this is a guy that had joined us, or had joined me, I should say, for the free agency frenzy live streams, if you will, the last 3 days, and he's made it to our weekly Wednesday show. Thank you for joining us, Sean. And Real 84, definitely agree with you. We're certainly speculating. That's a lot of what we're doing, right? Like, as fans, we are kind of just shooting the proverbial shit right now. We are talking sports, we're talking football, and we're just kind of trying to make sense of what we think will happen, not necessarily what will happen. I hope that makes sense. Evan, and I won't pronounce your last name because I don't want to mess it up. Thank you for stopping by and for this comment. He says, wide receiver at 10 makes sense given the difference in quality between the top of the class and the players you'd likely see at the top of the 2nd, particularly Wilson. And I think that's a fair take. Burks is also a pretty special breed, although Christian Watson's kind of, built similarly, that he might be a little bit more athletic even, which is kind of crazy to say. So there's certainly a drop off. There always is, though, with most positions. But thank you, Evan, for the comment. This is something that I mentioned a couple of days ago. I had said, I don't know if Garrett Wilson's even going to make it to 10. And somebody said, well, who's taking a wide receiver before 10? And I said, well, Atlanta. Atlanta might take a wide receiver, and they do have a lot of needs. Garrett Wilson seems like a great fit for them. So does London. I think he makes a lot of sense for the Atlanta Falcons if they're going to go wide receiver. Let's keep it moving. Clarifying. No worries. Sorry about that. If I misunderstood, John, that's my bad. Carlo, thank you for subscribing to Jets Today. Really appreciate the support, my man. We are closing in on 2K. We might even get there tonight. Let's see here. Well, we're like 12 subscribers away. No big deal. Mike Gee, he says, "Sup fellas, we just signed tight end Conklin. Let's go." Yes, I actually got a couple of predictions right. I only got Corey Davis right last year. I hit on Laken Tomlinson and Tyler Conklin this year. I missed on the three others, though. There's no chance of me improving my score any more than than the two that I got right. Maybe next year it'll be three. Maybe I'll get three correct. Thank you, Fly Guy, for subscribing to Jets Today. Really appreciate it. Let's see here. Sean McAteer. And I keep going to these comments and I keep forgetting we're supposed to be getting to our mailbag. It's a pretty good one, actually. We'll do this last comment and then I promise we're going to the mailbag. Sean McAteer, he says, Julio Jones is now available. Maybe on a 1-year prove-it deal? What do you think?
I don't think this happens.
Me either.
I mean, I love Julio Jones as a player, but I don't see him on a prove-it deal, going to the Jets offense, who still has obviously a lot to prove. So I don't think this is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't either. And I think he's at the end of the ropes here, at the end of his career, and he's probably going to try to latch on like he did with the Titans. I know he was traded to them, but I think he's going to want to try to go to another team that's competitive, could potentially go and make a run at the Super Bowl. I hate to say it, but the Bills could kind of make a little bit of sense. I know they just threw the bag at Von Miller, though, so they might not have – they tossed it and they pelted him with the bag, if you will. So anyway, to get back to what we were saying, yeah, I think that probably not. That's probably not going to happen. All right, let's go ahead and let's get to, and my wife's going, Julio! Let's go to the mailbag that we have tonight. And Kev Chatta, thank you for submitting it. By the way, guys, before I cover my face here with this, you can send in your mailbags in DMs on Twitter. You can send them on Instagram. You can send them when I drop the mailbag on Twitter and on the YouTube community tab. So be on the lookout for that. We'll do maybe some more. We'll put a more emphasis on the mailbag next week since free agency will be cooling down by that point. Let's go to the mailbag from Kev Chatta, and he says 5'9" DJ Reed, 5'10" Jordan Whitehead are now with 5'10" Michael Carter II. Are we too short now in the secondary? He says, I still think we need someone taller like an Elam or a McCreary in round 2. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, both guys are DJ Reed is small, and he does play outside corner. He plays a lot of zone coverage. So, he's kind of reading the field. I don't know how much man coverage they actually played with him in Seattle there, but he's gotten the job done for Seattle. He's been effective. He's been a good, reliable starter for them. In terms of height, it's a weird, cornerback type of deal there where, not everyone is, Antonio Cromartie that is 6'3" and they're able to move kind of, sometimes the taller you are, the more difficulty, fluidity of the hips, things of that nature. McCreary, I can't remember how tall he is, but he had very short arms at his length at the combine was not great. He's a good man corner. I don't know how tall he is. I wouldn't say Vern. I'm not sure. Maybe someone can pull his actual height, but his length wasn't great there. And Jordan Whitehead, I mean, he's a safety. So the amount of times that he's probably going to be, put up in a man coverage type of situation, he's going to be one of those lurkers. He's going to be man coverage downhill in the run game. And his height when he comes down to hit you does not matter. So I think I think it's a little bit different with certain aspects of what they're looking to do and height and how that height really kind of translates for certain corners. Sometimes the height is just no good in the NFL because not no good in the NFL for a corner, but it can decrease the level of play or your movements being fluid. And so I wouldn't worry too much about height right now unless we find out that it becomes a problem when the season starts.
Yeah, I thought that he was 6 foot. I thought that was his height, and it turns out that it is.
Yep.
To answer the question, I think that DJ Reed's probably our slot cornerback. I don't think that he's going to be on the outside. I think that's one of the intriguing parts about that signing is that it allows Breece Hall to stay on the outside, which he wouldn't have been in the slot anyway.
Mm-mm.
But it also allows Brandon Eccles to continue to have a role. And I also think that Michael Carter, I think they still really like him a lot. And there's nothing ruling out them going in the draft. I still don't think that they're going to go and get another guy in free agency. I don't think that's going to happen. Owen's agreeing. There was somebody, I think it was Kev Chatta himself actually, that said maybe Kobe Bryant. I'm down. Let's go. I think adding another cornerback is definitely reasonable, and I think the idea of having another taller outside cornerback to pair along with Breece Hall is a fine ask by Kev Chatta. Certainly not a ridiculous thing by any means,
Mhm.
but I think you're right. Having the fluidity in the hips as a slot cornerback, I think is super important. Those guys generally are in that like what 5'9" to like 5'11" size range,
Yeah.
I would say, pretty commonly, not always. Hey Grant, what's up, man? And Angel Garcia, he's saying Jalen Pitre. We do need to get a safety, I think. I think we're not
Yeah.
done doing safety, and I think they need to draft one in round two. I'm going to keep beating that drum. Round two safety feels like a really good spot in this draft. Just me personally, that's what I would do. Michael N. Jets. Woo! Good lord. Sorry about that. Wow. That's one thing I don't really love about the Ecamm service. Their chat boxes are screwed up. I feel like they constantly come out in different sizes. Michael N. He says Jets fans' YouTube channels have been ablaze these last few days. You can tell there's a different feeling going into this season. It could finally be happening for us Jets
Yeah.
fans. I love the positivity, and for sure. I mean, I'm just recently new to this. Like I've only been doing this for a year. I can only imagine the frustration for some of the guys that have been doing this for years now. Like the Jets Central guy, Ian, he's been doing this for a really long time. And he's been creating content for a really lousy team for a really long time. Actually, they deserve it. Like these guys that have been doing it for years and years, they really do
Mhm.
deserve it. That's not me kissing their butts. They're not watching this stream. So they just deserve, and we all deserve as fans, we deserve a little something different and a little bit, of that positive energy that you're talking about. And you're right. I think that, you know, if you've been watching my channel, our streams don't get 200 viewers. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
But I popped on and people just poured in because we're all jacked up. We all want to talk about what's going on. It's exciting. All right, let's see. Ruben Dario Toribio. He says Lewis Seen from Georgia at the top of the second round would pair great with Whitehead. We're going to talk about Whitehead, and we're going to talk about all these guys. I'm doing a horrible job of getting to our topics. Let's just be honest. I'm just going to you guys because you guys keep throwing it in there, and I'm happy to go to what you guys want to talk about for right now. I'm so excited about the Jordan Whitehead signing, and I said it. I think to my wife when it happened, I was like, I think that's my favorite signing so far. Like Laken Tomlinson's the one that's probably most important. But the Jordan Whitehead signing has me all jacked up, all excited. Why don't you comment on that? Benji, I'm going to get to your super chat comment in just a second. James, what are your just overall feelings about pairing Jordan Whitehead with Lewis Seen or with Dax Hill, Brisker? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so with Jordan Whitehead, he is that downhill safety. He played a lot of snaps in the box, so he's going to be roaming around the box. He's a great run defender. Better as time went on, or his years went on in pass coverage, mostly zone coverage was where he kind of excelled. I don't think they put him in a lot of man coverage type of situations, but. So I think what you kind of need to pair him with is someone who could be that, center fielder type of guy. And so I think that's what we're going to be ultimately looking for. Lewis Seen, he's also that, come up and hit you kind of player. I think what we need to try to find is that center fielder, that guy that could play deep if we have Jordan Whitehead in the box, or if he comes down and I don't know, maybe plays a linebacker type of position or one or the other. Someone that can man the one high, the one high safety look, and also be able to play, when if it's a cover 4 or a cover 2, and be able to play in coverage. So I think there are guys that could do that. Obviously, I mean, I don't, not to throw a wrench in the whole conversation here, but if a guy at this point, like a Kyle Hamilton, is sitting there at 10, to where you can move him anywhere, he could be your center fielder, and then he can come up and and play the run as well. He could play man coverage if you need him to. That becomes now a different kind of conversation, because I do think you need to pair Jordan Whitehead with someone who could be that kind of center fielder. And Pitry, he could play there, but he plays in the box as well. And I'm trying to think Brisker, if Brisker would be a good fit there. I think potentially Brisker would definitely be a nice fit. Dax Hill, he could play a lot of different places. So I think what we're looking for now is that center fielder.
I love Dax Hill, and I love the idea of pairing him with Whitehead. I mean, I think I sent a tweet out before we even signed Whitehead, and I was like, please give me Whitehead and Hill. That's the combination right there. You got a versatile guy who can play all over the place in Hill, and then you've got your zone box safety and Whitehead, an enforcer on our defense. Let's go ahead and let's get to this super chat from Benji. Thank you, Benji, for the support. Very much appreciated. He says, with all these holes being filled in free agency, I am on board with Hamilton train at 4 and edge at 10. Wide receiver in round 2. Thoughts? Also love the show. Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate the comment and the super chat. Let me go on this first piece. The 4-10 thing. If you want to make sure you get Hamilton, you certainly would probably need to do it at 4. I'm still of the mind that I would rather go get my edge at 4. And then on the chance that he's available at 10, if he's there at 10, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to pass on him and to make to reason with, with anybody why you would have passed on him at 10 with obviously still needing another safety. What are your thoughts also on this? He talks about edge at 10, wide receiver round 2. I think wide receiver round 2 could work if you're going to do this. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Hamilton, that I think it's going to be a stretch of 4. I think both ways though, right? It's whoever is your edge 1. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson's going to go. But if you're sitting there at 4 and it's between Kayvon Thibodeau and Kyle Hamilton, I think you take Thibodeau at 4, no question there, and then you figure out the safety spot later on, and then the second round, wide receiver. Yeah, I mean Christian Watson, and I don't think we should really rule out. I mean, they are adding a lot of pieces here in free agency. I don't think we can completely rule out, like, if a guy like Chris Olave falls, and not falls, but he's there at 23, 24. 25, if it's Jamison Williams that's there at 22, 23, they have the ability to go up. Don't just sit there and say, we'll take whatever falls to us. So the second round, if we do stick there, Christian Watson is rising up the boards there. And also a guy like Sky Moore is rising up the boards after his combine. And I think just as time goes on, we get closer to the draft, I think he'll continue to rise up there. So wide receiver we could do in the second round for sure. And also potentially move back into the first to get them.
Good stuff. We have Devin Maxwell already screaming, do a mock draft. We will do a mock draft. We're going to do that near the end of the show. If you're not able to stick on and watch with us or watch the whole show, do check it out after the stream ends. It'll be near the end of the show. We'll do a mock draft. Grant Rude had a question because I did kind of throw this right at you in the middle of my stream yesterday. Thoughts on John saying he looks better than you? I said you had the brains.
I'll take the brains. That works.
All right. There's so many comments and so many good questions. You guys are absolutely loading it up. This one's from Jared. He says, crazy thought. We know how deep we know how deep this class is at wide receiver and edge. What happens when Hamilton is there at 10? And I think we kind of said it already. I don't know if they can pass on him. At 10, I think it becomes one of those scenarios where you're actually not able to do it. You can't feasibly make sense out of passing on him. The value's too good. Same, and I think James would kind of already echoed that a little bit. It would make things a little bit interesting because then you're going to have to kind of move around, what players you're taking at what spots. Matters, a faction, thank you for subscribing. But I think it's doable. I think that there's no reason to not go ahead and get yourself an elite playmaker on the defensive side if he's there at 10.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving. I'm skimming here. Let's go. Do we want to try to do a topic? We can do a topic. Why not?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do, this one's a little bit maybe like half glass empty, which is not really what we want to do, but I guess it's fun to look back on maybe some of the players that we could have landed that we didn't land. I know who you're going to want to talk about. Any players that you guys feel like we should have gone after that we didn't land. And, we don't have to spend forever on this one. I've got a player in my mind that I would have loved to have seen us land. But again, I feel great about what we've done. So what do you think? Is there a player that you wish we had gotten that we didn't?
So I did really want Marcus Williams. I feel like I gave poor thoughts to free agency before here. Cause I was really of the mindset, like, listen, just throw money around. I don't even care anymore. This roster needs so much talent, and I was kind of looking at the Dalton Schultz of the world, the Marcus Williams of the world, like those high priced guys that, are at the top of their game in their positions in the NFL. Obviously Dalton Schultz didn't make it to free agency. Marcus Williams did. But Marcus Williams is the one guy, and it was at $14 million per year. Now, I don't know what happened there because it seemed like the Jets were in it. I'm thinking potentially maybe length of contract was a factor. I don't think JD's given anything more than 3 years to anybody since he's been the general manager. And also, Schefter did tweet after Marcus Williams signed with the Ravens that Marcus Williams is getting $31 million in the next year. So I don't know how that works in terms of how the money was structured. Maybe it's signing bonus. He got a lot of money up front, apparently. And so that could have swayed his way. And then it's the Ravens. They are on a step above there with Lamar Jackson and kind of what they got going on over in Baltimore. So I understood him not coming over after I saw, certain aspects of it. And I was kind of just going off the $14 million per year. I thought it was something that we could have afforded. We could have done, but JD turns around and he gets DJ Reed and Jordan Whitehead for like a total of 17 million per year. So I would go with Marcus Williams. I would say other than him though, when you look at what these guys got contract wise, it's really not all that I don't feel like we missed out like crazy. Like, listen, Olukan, the linebacker from the Falcons, I liked him. I wouldn't have given him 3 years for $45 million though. Or
no,
listen,
no.
Devondre Campbell, the way they were talking, or the beat is talking about how the Jets value the linebacker room. We weren't giving him more than $50 million, and he was going back to Green Bay with a hefty contract. Christian Kirk, I mean, I like the guy, but I'm not giving him a contract that's worth up to $84 million. He's just honestly just not worth it.
I can't believe.
And so there weren't a lot of guys. I mean, the Jaguars altogether, I mean, holy moly, they gave away everything. If this doesn't work out, I don't know where they stand from there. It makes me upset that we had to go through all of that. Trevor Lawrence should stay at Clemson if the Jets get the pick, because man, if this doesn't work out, they just, Trevor Lawrence is going to be somewhere else at some point in time in the near future, because it's just not going to work out for them. But CJ Jones was the guy that we talked about, right? As kind of thinking it was going to be more of a decent signing. He got $30 million from the Broncos, $10 million a year. So that's another steep price there. So pretty good with what we did, other than, I did feel like we could have given the money to Marcus Williams, but it worked out in our favor in the end with the value signings.
Good stuff. Yeah, the only one that I was like kind of sad about, but again, it's not, we were never going to spend the money on him, and I wouldn't have supported the move if we had paid 15 million for Aluakon. It's too much money. And the other one was Kirk. But again, when you look at the contract, that's absurd. I could not believe that he got what he ended up with. I think it was crazy. And I talked a lot about it on the streams. It really, really boggled my mind why they did that. And I still think that's the reason why Allen Robinson's still sitting there. He's gonna wind up being here, I think, for a long time. He's gonna be sitting on the free agent market waiting for somebody to pay him. Because why the hell shouldn't he get $20 million if Kirk's getting it? It's crazy.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Apparently, Raheem Mostert signed with the Finns. That's interesting. They already signed a running back, I thought, too. The Cardinals, they got the shifty guy, the third down back.
Chase Edmonds.
Yeah, so they've placed a pretty heavy emphasis on running backs that are explosive. They've gotten 2 guys right now that can make big plays at the running back position. That's pretty interesting. Joe Campione, he says that DJ Reed is going to be blanketing Kirk this year. And actually, I think there was actually film of DJ Reed shutting him down because they played in the same division. And there was some footage of DJ Reed putting the clamps on Mr. Kirk. So pretty cool stuff. All right. A million comments. Yeah, Miles Jack went to Pittsburgh. I thought that was an interesting one. I would have liked to have seen him come to the Jets. I was thinking because of the intense background that he had with the coaches, there was a really good chance that he ended up with the Jets. But ultimately, he wanted some more money. I'm sure that he got more of an offer from the Steelers. And why not? Go get the money. I think that's smart by him personally. Has Bobby Wagner been signed yet? No. And
I don't think so.
There's in every free agency year, there's always the frenzy. Like that's always what's going to happen. That initial burst of signings, and then it kind of cools off a little bit, and then there's going to be some smatterings of signings over the next week or so, and then it's going to slow down even a little bit more, and that's just generally how it works. It's like a explosion, and then it kind of tapers off a little bit. All of these guys are eventually, Allen Robinson and, Bobby Wagner. These guys are all going to get picked up, and it will be interesting to see by whom and especially when. When will it happen? Will it be after the draft? Maybe that's the case. Maybe these guys are going to have to sit there and wait for a team to miss out on a position and then go get them after the draft. I love that we didn't pay any Jets taxes this year. That's a great comment. Yeah, no Jets tax. And that is something that I hear a lot on social media. People talk about the Jets tax, having to pay out the wazoo just because we're the New York Jets. All right.
Yep.
Let's go ahead. Let's move on. And let's talk specifically about somebody that we really should be talking about maybe more. He's probably the biggest and best free agent and most important free agent signing that we made in the offseason. And I said it, in the streams. I think that this is like mission accomplished by Joe Douglas. He took over a cap situation that was kind of a nightmare. Lots of dead cap money. We've removed that. We're down to like less than $2 million in dead cap money. And when he took over, there was no Mekhi Becton. And say whatever you want about Mekhi Becton, I still think there's a lot of talent there. There was no Elijah Vera Tucker, no Connor McGovern, and certainly no Laken Tomlinson. George Fant is another guy that he brought in, and I bet you remember, James, and maybe you felt differently. I think some people scratched their heads when we paid George Fant what we paid him coming from Seattle, and it's panned out. And I think that was the last starter for this upcoming season. I really believe that. I think Mekhi Becton and George Fant will be bookending it, and then our interior, unless they cut McGovern to sign like a J.C. Treader, I think it's complete. The starting lineup is complete, and now it's about building that depth and having that farm system that I've been talking about for over a year now. What are your thoughts on the Laken Tomlinson signing, the contract we gave him, the fit, the role that he may play as a leader on that offensive line in the locker room? Just go at it.
Yeah, so he was up there for me, Laken Tomlinson, because we needed to finish that interior, and I think you're absolutely right in terms of who we have on this line. And JD, he completely remade the entire thing from scratch. I mean, first round pick at left tackle, first round pick at left guard, free agent signing at center, free agent signing at right guard, and then George Fant, another free agent signing at right tackle. And I think people did kind of give a question mark to George Fant because in Seattle, it was iffy for him there in Seattle. And then he comes over to the Jets, and we didn't know exactly what we were getting. And last year, he just kind of had a phenomenal year. If it wasn't for him, I don't know where the offense would have been, what we would have saw from Zach. It would have been all over the place, but he stepped in at left tackle and he played fantastic. So it was great there. But Laken Tomlinson, so San Francisco 49ers, that's what they needed to start to get in the building. Guys that were in with Mike LaFleur, guys that were in with Robert Saleh, guys that they can instill to the rest of the team that, hey, listen, the system works. These guys know what they're doing. Follow what they're saying, and it's done this way. It's a guy who has played in a Super Bowl. He's played in the NFC Championship game last year. He turned 30 in February, so he's on the older side, but offensive linemen do tend to play a little bit longer. But for him, he's extremely durable. I mean, I have down here, he started 104 games total in the NFL, and since his first season with the 49ers in 2017, he started 15 or more games in every single year. And really 15 was in 2017. And then every other year it's been 16 and last year 17. So he's played and he started in every single game. He's played all the snaps. And kind of the interesting part about him is he was picked in the first round by the Lions. Yes. The 27th pick or 28th pick, coming out of Duke. They traded him for a 5th round pick after just 2 years of his career. And
I remember when that trade happened.
Yeah. After 2 years, they just let him go and they traded him before the 2017 preseason, and they only got a 2019 5th round pick. So like they just threw him to the curb basically.
Yep. Gave up.
And he found his fit in San Francisco, which works for us because it's the exact same scheme, excellent in the zone blocking. So it's a scheme fit. And I know people out there are saying, well, he played left tackle, a left guard, how's it going to fit for right guard? There may be a adjustment there. No doubt about it. A lot of people are throwing Duke Mayweather's name in there. Listen, if that guy says something, you should probably listen offensive line wise. So I'm not going to sit here and try to dispute him. There's probably going to be some kind of, adjustment there. It may not start out all that hot, but I think when you're the Jets, you look at it as, hey, listen, he knows what we want to do. He knows the scheme. He's done good at it. And we feel like as teachers, right, as coaches, we can coach him up to be able to play the right side and become comfortable, because that is their job also. They have to get guys in, and then they can't just say, well, he did this 3 years ago. He did this 2 years ago. He did this last year. We'll just let him do the same thing and hope it works out. You have to teach the guy. And so I'm super happy about Laken Tomlinson. One last fun fact about him is I read that after his football playing career, he wants to go to medical school to be a neurosurgeon. So he is a wildly smart guy. At Duke, was in I think he was in the pre-med program. Wants to study the brain and how everything works. And so coming out of Duke, one of his dreams when he's done playing football is to go to medical school. So an impressive person just all around.
So now we have to re-sign LDT, have 2 docs on the line.
Yeah, there you go.
It's got to happen.
Another salary.
That's a pretty cool tidbit. I didn't know that. Kudos or tip of the cap to Matt O'Leary. I saw a little tidbit by him, and he had said that Laken Tomlinson actually played right guard in college, and I didn't know that. So it's not like he has zero experience doing it. And like you said, not discrediting Duke because he certainly knows what he's talking about. He is, an O-line guru essentially. He's a coach for O-linemen. That's what he does. I think you're right. I think it's going to be like a transition for him, something that he needs to work on. But I think that, he certainly has the skill set to do it and to pull it off at a very, very high level. Joe Pekulik, thank you for subscribing to Jets Today. Really appreciate that. All right, let's go to some comments. And I have to start with this Bino one. Bino has been here 4 nights in a row, every single night. So
Nice.
big props to you, Bino. Thank you for being a great Jets fan, and thanks for tuning in again. He says, Joe Douglas took over a shit show, had to rid the stench of McCagnon and his awful picks and contracts. This is why, and I didn't think about this is why he wanted 6 years. He knew it was going to be tough to do this. And he's now, what is this, this is his 3rd year technically, right? Like 3rd full year coming up. So
Yep.
it took years, quite literally, to rebuild the offensive line. And it was from day one. That's what he's been talking about and emphasizing is offensive line and defensive line play. And he's finally, at least for the short term, has rebuilt the entire thing. Massive tip of the cap to Joe Douglas. He has really done all that he can, in my opinion. He has done everything he can to make sure that this offensive line is what it needs to be. William Malpica, he says, Bills signed Miller, so we have to face him twice a year. That's certainly going to be a challenge, but certainly, based on what we've seen from Becton, I think he can handle it. Thank you, Gangrene44, for the subscribing. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. Should we still draft? Wow, it's incredible, and it's quite literally, it is impossible to keep track of all of these comments. I'm gonna do my best to keep reading them, guys. We're gonna move on from Laken Tomlinson. If you have not hit the like button yet, I need you to go ahead and jet that S up. 140 plus of you guys, go ahead and hit the like button right now. Subscribe to Jets Today. 4 freaking days in a row I've been streaming. And lots and lots of videos. If you're new to the channel, there's tons and tons of video that you can watch and enjoy, and more will be coming. More will be on the way. I've already got plans for a post free agency mock draft, and I'm going to be talking a lot about, the offensive line. I'm going to make a video specifically about the O-line and where they need to go from here, because I've mentioned it a lot on the streams, and I want to make sure there's a video that really emphasizes where they need to go from here, because I think the work is still not done. It's hard to say. I know that the starting unit has been built, but there is more that needs to be done, and I think that that's something that we all need to talk a little bit about. All right, let's keep it going. We got another topic here, and it's pretty straightforward. We got Mr. CJ Uzomah, and we talked a little bit about his age. He's got some injuries in his past, and if we're being perfectly honest, that contract, 2-year deal, there's a really good chance the Jets probably have an out after year 1. I don't know that for certain, but I would be very willing to bet that there is a decent chance that they have an out after year 1. So not a lot of risk involved with that move. The good old days of every comment on NYJ Today being read are gone. Maybe it's free agency frenzy. Maybe it'll cool off. Maybe it'll be back to a more secluded stream environment like we're used to. Anyway, off topic. CJ Uzomah, I think for the reasons that I was just talking about, it's a really, really low risk move. And there's some upside there. Really good blocker. He's going to be able to help to get the running game going, to help protect Zach Wilson. Easy, target in the red zone. What are your initial takeaways from that move, adding him to the offense?
Yeah, he was a player I didn't really even think about free agency wise all that much. I guess, we were all kind of hung up on certain guys, but we really didn't we really didn't talk about him that much. And maybe and I thought back on it and I was like, well, the Bengals did have, cap space flexibility. You'd think they'd want to bring back as many guys as they, potentially could, especially because he's been there for 7 years. He spent his entire career in Cincinnati. But, the trend is right. We come from Laken Tomlinson to what he could provide right off the field, on the field, locker room presence, right into CJ Uzomah, who, is a guy who has played in a Super Bowl. He's been on a team that was at the bottom of the ranks and he stuck it out for all those years. And then he watched them go to the Super Bowl. It seemed like an improbable run, but he was a part of it. And you see all of that character that you talk, that we want, that locker room presence, the speeches before the guys are walking out of the tunnel, all of that is important because the Jets are trying legitimately to change the culture of this entire organization. Like, it hasn't even been bad. Like, it's been like a dumpster fire of just nothing, like of nothing, like no pride, no attention, no guy. We talk about the Jets tax. You have to be paid more to come here. Like, all of that needs to change, and it started with Saleh, it started with Douglas, and now they're getting their guys in. Uzomah is one of those guys, and he's a big body too. I mean, he's 6'6", 265. You mentioned his run blocking, and a stat that I saw come up from Next Gen Stats. They've been kind of tweeting out a lot about certain free agent signings over the course, and they said that he gained plus 89 yards after catch over expected last year, which I'm pretty sure means that he gained 89 more yards than probably he should have based on a missed tackle, yards after catch, etc. And that was 5th among all tight ends. Obviously the Travis Kelce's, the George Kittles. So I saw a lot on Twitter there of they were intrigued with his yards after catch ability. Now the numbers don't wow you. The overall number doesn't wow you because he's in an offense with T. Higgins, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, those guys. And he hadn't really had a receiving threat career before then, but it kind of really just came out once Joe Burrow got there. And this year he put up, really good numbers in terms of, tight end wise that, I think the Jets and Zach Wilson should be really excited about in terms of another target, a big body, and then also help in the run game. So he's a guy who's going to come in and, be that leader like CJ Mosley was for the defense. And, now you got that offensive voice, that 29-year-old that's been there before that can come in and, bring along some of these young guys that are also really exciting.
Jim Page, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Excuse me. Yeah, I think that the culture changing aspect is something that I should have said, and you nailed it right on the head. I think they are really due. When they sign these guys, they are looking for leaders. And if you remember the first draft class, which, at this point maybe isn't looking all that great, if we're being perfectly honest with you, the 2020 draft class, there was an emphasis even in that draft class to get leaders. I think every player or all but one player was a captain on their college football teams. And I think that's something that Joe Douglas emphasizes is having guys that are strong leaders in the locker room, good dudes. We talk a lot about Michael Carter and how much fun he is to listen to. And you have to imagine that he is the exact same person in the locker room, right? Like, just a cool dude. You want to be around him. And I think that's the same thing for Zach Wilson. He's a little bit more reserved and a little bit more serious in his press conferences. But I think that in the locker room, he's a guy that they want to be around. They love, the fact that he loves ball. And that's kind of what this is. This is CJ Uzomah is all ball. And if you have not watched the videos that he's talking about, these pregame coming out of the tunnel speeches that CJ's giving, he's giving them not to the tight end group. Like, he's giving it to multiple people on the team. SDA Jets, thank you for hitting that subscribe button. He's a leader. And I think that it's not going to take any time for him at all to take on a role like that for the 2022 New York Jets. Whew. All right, Joe Pekulik, who just subscribed moments ago, he says thanks, and he says glad to subscribe. He says it. So it looks like we are going to go early on wide receiver. He's saying I think a speedster like a Chris Olave would be a great fit. We talked about Olave maybe not going in the top 10. So what are your thoughts on him in green and white?
I like Chris Olave a whole lot. I think he is underrated right now for the production that he put up and the way he put it up at Ohio State. Like, listen, if we're looking for the separators, right? We're looking for guys that create separation. Chris Olave is one of those guys that could do it. He's a smooth runner. He's got really good route running skills, and ultimately, he can be that deep threat, and he's got the speed. We saw it at the combine as well. So I think overall, really smooth wide receiver. He moves very easily, very fluid, and he ultimately catches the football in space, and he can make you pay. Going down deep. I think how Daniel Jeremiah described him was a home run hitter with route running ability. So I don't think he's going to go in the top 10. I just don't in the top 10 or at 10. But I could see him being the guy that, hey, if we do decide we're going to move back from 10 and we go to 17, 18, 19, 20, and he's there, I would definitely be all on board with that pick there. I think he would be a nice addition to Elijah Moore and Corey Davis there.
Yes. You can make the case for so many wide receivers in this draft class. I don't think that there's just a couple of guys. I think there's a handful and maybe even more that can make a lot of plays. And that's, we talk about, who are the top 5 wide receivers. Christian Watson might be just on the outside looking in of that. Like, he is another guy that could be, in the late first, early second round conversations. So, if not a guy like Chris Olave, there's other options for sure. Thank you for submitting that question. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I like to go off topic too. We got Obi-Wan Kenobi in the house. That's pretty cool. He says, do you think the Jets, with the 2 tight ends that they added, does it rule out drafting a tight end in rounds 2 or 3? We talked about it earlier. I don't think that it does. I think that they will probably go to round 3. That was my guess even prior to the Conklin signing. I don't think they're going to want to do it in round 2. That's just my guess. But they might. I don't think it rules it out completely. And again, round 3 to me is the sweet spot for your tight end. Just my personal opinion, though. That's not the only opinion out there. There's a lot of people that still want to go get one pretty early. Whew, man. All right, we're going to keep moving. And we will go on to a couple more of our players that we have signed. And let's go to Mr. DJ Reed. If I could delete Mr. CJ Uzomah. There he is. Okay. Let's go to DJ Reed here. We talked a little bit about him, 5'9", cornerback. And he is going to probably play in the slot. I'm going to put up the contract real quick. So it's a 3-year deal, $33 million. So we're paying him on average about $11 million per year. And again, similar to other Joe Douglas signings, would not surprise me at all if there is an out after year 1 or year 2. So again, we're not locked in forever with this guy. And the idea here is he's young, he's athletic, had really good grades. He graded out great against the run. I don't know if you saw that. He grades out as like 86 in PFF grade for, against the run. So he's certainly going to do his job in the slot against, being able to contain the run. What are your thoughts on Mr. DJ Reed?
Yeah, so again, going through the trend of a guy who was with Robert Saleh at one point in San Francisco. He didn't play a whole lot in San Francisco. He kind of got his due in Seattle there, but similar scheme that he'd be coming from there. Really good in zone coverage. I would have to look at how he does in man coverage. I don't entirely know that. 5'9", could be potentially difficult to play man coverage there. In certain areas of the field, but excellent in zone coverage. And then you kind of nailed it. He's an excellent run defender. And that is the trend here with the secondary picks that the Jets made or signings that the Jets made in free agency there. So 17 passes defensed and 4 picks over the last 2 years for DJ Reed. So he gets his hands on the football. He does pick off some passes there. So I think it's a great value signing once again, right? The value is everything, because you're right. We saw it with Connor McGovern and George Fant there, to where they signed 3-year deals in that first year with Joe Douglas, and Joe Douglas's first free agency, and there were outs for both players this year. I mean, we could save $9.5 million by cutting or releasing Connor McGovern there, and so most of these 3-year deals, you'd think after year 2 is probably where you would have the least amount of dead money that you would be able to add. If you release them, you get the most cap space. So I think DJ Reed is a fantastic value signing there. He's definitely going to help this secondary. Now, you're right. It's a matter of where does he play. I've seen like everything, right? I've seen, okay, the Seahawks started him out at left corner, the outside left corner last year, which is where Brandon Echols played for us. And then in week 4, they switched him to the right outside corner. And it was something like over 400 snaps or pass coverage snaps as a right corner last year. And he did not let up a touchdown, which is like the most of any corner at that spot. And so, the right corner there, is a spot, he could play. You could put him in the slot if you need to. Someone said in the chat that he played some safety. And so for Saleh, or maybe for Seattle, I'm not 100% sure. But it seems like he very well has a chance to actually be one of the outside corners for the Jets.
Yeah, and that's what Steven Kapler is saying. From what I had read, and maybe I'm wrong here, I had thought that I had read something that suggested that he kind of struggled on the outside and was much better on the inside. I don't know though. And based on what we're hearing, the Jets really love him, and the Seahawks really wanted to retain him.
Yep.
Perhaps maybe they do see him as an outside guy. It's tricky. I actually want to disagree with what you're saying, Steven and James. I think that they will potentially keep him on the inside. I think that this is the replacement for obviously a big replacement, but they're replacing a guy like Javelin Guidry, who was a shorter slot cornerback, and highly effective last year. Really graded out very, very nicely. So, if they decide to push him out to outside cornerback, I'll be interested to see how he does. I thought that I had read something that suggested he struggled, but regardless, the proof is in the pudding here. He has performed pretty nicely last year and the year prior to that. Everybody's saying I'm wrong, so maybe I am dead wrong. And that's okay. That happens sometimes. Go ahead.
And Brandon Echols actually, now I'm looking at it from an off. So Brandon Echols played the right side. Yeah, Brandon Echols played the right side. Breece Hall played the left. And so Seattle, after week 4, they moved DJ to right. So that was where Brandon Echols would be. So they have a lot. They have a lot of options, right? I mean, at this point, because they went ahead and made, they have Breece Hall, which I really hope that they're higher on than some people, like, not DJ Reed, but DJ from
BNMA.
BNMA. Yeah. He kind of feels like the other spot is going to be up for grabs between Hall and Echols there. And so it's pretty interesting to see. I really like Breece Hall. I think he can man one side of the field, very well. They just need to find who's going to be, that outside on the other side. That's all.
Well, I'll take an L. I'll go ahead and I'll eat it.
No, yeah, I mean,
I'm fine with it. I don't think I get enough hate from the chat sometimes. I think, if that's the case, I'm excited and I'm glad. I had thought that he more or less projected for the inside position, but I'm good with it. We need an outside cornerback opposite of Breece Hall. So I'm good with it. Yep, and Harold's agreeing with you as well. Reed plays outside right cornerback. He is not a slot cornerback. There you go. No big deal. All right. We are at 100 likes. I really appreciate that, guys. Go ahead and hit it again. If you haven't already smacked that like button, go ahead and hit it. We've got 160 plus in here, 160 strong of Jets fans. And we are going to move on from DJ Reed, the outside cornerback. the new outside cornerback for the New York Jets. And that's good. Let's see here. Not DJ Reed. We're going to go to my man, the Hammer. I literally picked a hammer for him as the emoji. And here he is, the man himself, Jordan Whitehead. Let's just talk a little bit about him. And I'm going to throw something on the screen that I did point out in the stream yesterday. I do think it's worth mentioning. And this is from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Michael Nania of Jets X Factor. He does all of the heavy lifting there with the numbers crunching. Yep. And here you can see, guys, and if you haven't seen this graphic yet, it just shows you exactly who he is as a safety. He is a zone, box, and good coverage safety. Like when I say box safety, it's like a negative connotation that he can't cover, and that's not the case. He's just not going to be manning up anybody, and you can see he's one of the worst man coverage safeties when asked to do so out of the 65 that he ranked out. Mm-hmm. But you can see he is top 5 and top 6 in those zone coverage categories. So he's going to be that, and tell me if I'm wrong, James, because I was wrong in the last segment. Those robber zone coverages, right? Like you pull them down and you have them kind of playing in that middle, section of the field and playing that zone robber type of coverage. And certainly he'll be able to roam around there and lay the lumber on people. Is that kind of how you envision him for this defense? That's kind of what I see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're right. The robber coverage, right? So if you're, you can disguise coverage, right? If for just an example here, you got 2 high free safeties, and you want to run, you're going to run a cover 1, you show the 2 high look, and one goes to the middle of the field, and he's the middle of the field player, and then another one comes down. Maybe he's looking for a tight end, maybe he's looking for a drag, or he's looking for an in, or whatever he may be looking for. Absolutely, that is that's correct. There, he's going to come down and hit you. He did well. I mean, 4 picks over the last 2 years. That's good for right. I know when we say box safety, it just feels like we're automatically talking about Jamal Adams while he's in Seattle, right? It feels that way. But in zone coverage, he's been really good. And I think really a part of that is right when he does come down, he dislodges the ball with his physicality. When he comes down, that's his form of his pass defense, right? Is he's going to come down, he's going to dislodge the ball, he's going to hit and be physical. Another really impressive aspect of him too, when we go back to the run game, because DJ Reed is effective in the run game. Now it's Jordan Reed who's effective in the run game. He's got a whole bunch of tackles for losses. Jordan Whitehead does. Jordan Whitehead. Yeah, no, I just made my own, tight end for the Washington football team, or Commanders, or whatever. But he's the guy who's going to come down and affect the run game. They really needed that presence, though. They really needed that guy who can come down and help in the run game, because the run defense just was not there at all. And a guy like him, I think a lot of people on Twitter too, what I saw was a lot of people excited for, when Josh Allen's roaming around back there looking to throw, we have a guy like Jordan Whitehead who can kind of come down and say, okay, well, I'll match you 1 for 1, force at least a little bit of pressure. Not saying he's going to sack him all the time, but at least maybe force him to get the ball out. Or when Josh Allen goes to run against the Jets, and he runs the ball a lot, but against the Jets, he runs a lot of those options, a lot of those quarterback sweeps, and he may not do that, and the Bills may not want to do that first time that Jordan Whitehead comes down and lays a hit. And, stuff like that ultimately matters when other teams are game planning for a guy, like Josh Allen to play. And you have a guy like Jordan Whitehead who's willing to be that physical.
Yep. Great stuff. There's a couple of questions in here. So Yes, I think they envision him as the strong safety. And some people are saying, let's go get another one. So there's people saying, Sean McAteer saying, let's go get Tart from San Francisco, I believe, right? He's from San Fran, Tart. Jaquise Tart. And then Angel Garcia, he is saying, let's go get Terrell Edmonds on a cheap 3-year deal if he's still available. I'll make a prediction, whether it's right or wrong. I think the Jets are probably done adding safeties, at least starting safeties in free agency. I think they're going to roll with Whitehead, with Davis, with Pinnock, and with a drafted safety as well, to go along with those guys that I just mentioned. I don't think they will go and get another one. Doesn't mean they can and that they won't, but that's just my personal guess. Any thoughts on that, James, on, will they make another move for another veteran safety?
Yeah, no, I don't think we're gonna see another free agent safety, because you also factor in LaMarcus Joyner there as well, which came out today. I think his deal was for $4.5 million for 1 year, so that's not really. I'd say it's not really all that cheap for a guy who hasn't played
Right.
football in an entire year.
I was surprised.
But
I'm not trying to cut you off. I was
yeah,
surprised
no, go
by
ahead.
the number, and I don't think that's throwaway money. They're not looking at him as okay, well, maybe
Right.
he'll make the team kind of contract. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're absolutely right. I think they're planning on him. They were upset when he could not play last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they thought he was going to be a big part of it. And Will Parkinson, who you had on last week, he tweeted out once LaMarcus Joyner was re-signed that he was a big part of that locker room,
Yes.
and they were very upset when they lost him for the year and he couldn't play. So it feels like they're saying, okay, we know what we can get from this guy. Let's give him the money so he stays, and we'll see what we can get out of him. And ultimately, you have now Whitehead, you have Joyner, Pinnock played a nice free safety like you talked about, and then maybe there is a guy that they like in the draft that is not Kyle Hamilton that they're willing to spend that pick on, so that a guy like LaMarcus Joyner can groom him and he can play and he doesn't have to play right away.
Yeah, and I think it looks like a lot of people maybe agree, and that there's nothing wrong with the question that you asked, Angel. So don't take it the wrong way. I think that it's fine to ask, whether or not we're done at a position. I think that's a fair thing to ask. I'm actually wondering if we're done at linebacker. That's the one that I'm wondering about, because with the move trading Cashman, no, we weren't banking on him, but it's just another linebacker that's gone. We don't have, we're short one more linebacker, I guess is what I mean to say. So that's the position I think that I'm wondering. Are they done at linebacker?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Harold throws a good comment in here about Mr. Jordan Whitehead, so I'll throw it up here. He says, exactly. He can play the robber, also underneath zones. He can play some too high as well. Great in the box against the run. A little bit of Jamal Adams without the drama. So something that we didn't touch on with Jordan Whitehead, he is a true Swiss Army knife. When we talk about versatility, his versatility is absolutely redonkulous. And this is again, I have no guilt. I steal from people. I take their hard work and I use it on my streams. This is also from Michael Nania.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, these are the percentages to which Jordan Whitehead lined up. And you can see that there's a pretty good variety here. Free safety, 28, almost 29% of the time. Box safety, 37% of the time. A slot, slot cornerback or whatever you want to call it, 21% of the time. Edge as 8% of the time. Outside cornerback, 5% of the time. He plays all over the place.
Yep.
And I think they envision that when you look at a guy who has that much versatility, you're not signing him and saying he's only going to play in like one or two spots. You're picturing the same thing on your defense. So certainly a ton of versatility and variety. I want to get to this question because I've seen it posted a couple of times, and I don't want to keep ignoring Colton because he is still sitting there, and the Jets. A lot of fans, myself included, I predicted that we would sign Allen Robinson. So part of me is like, come on, baby, make it 3 right. What do you think the contract will be? Not or I'm sorry, what should the contract be is what he's asking.
So we'd have to stick to at least 2 or 3 years, right? I mean, if we're talking about a contract that we would sign him to based on what we see from Joe Douglas, I mean, it would have to be a 2 to 3 year contract. Um, and man, I mean, the Jaguars really screwed everything up, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they really, and one signing wide receiver wise we didn't talk about with them was they signed Zay Jones to a 3 year, $30 million deal. Um, Zay Jones has 1,800 yards receiving in 6 years in the NFL. He's a nice player. I'm sure he's a great guy, and there's value to him there. But when you're talking about numbers, there is a level that the numbers matter when you're determining price. That's what agents are bringing to the negotiation table. Devontae Adams is going to bring, his stuff to the negotiation table. But sorry to get off track there on
No, you're good.
Allen Robinson, but it feels like he's going to say, listen, this is what I've done, and look what other guys have gotten. So if you're in that 2 to 3 year range, which Joe D likes to have, then you got to be thinking somewhere like 3 for $48-50 million, right? It's got to be somewhere in that range. That's probably what he's looking for. It's got to be something along those lines. And it I mean, 22 a year at least. Like, he is going to ask for a lot more than Christian Kirk got. That's the nature of it. I just don't think teams maybe are going to be willing to give it at this point in free agency. But it's an interesting. I would love for him to be on the Jets. It's just Joe Douglas is going to have to pony up some cash if that's what's going to. If ultimately that's what he wants to happen.
Yeah, and I don't. I had said it also a couple of nights ago. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the Jets will do it. I don't think it's because Joe Douglas is cheap. I just think that they have made their moves, and you said it, and we keep kind of repeating it. But the Jags really did mess up the wide receiver market in this free agency class. And I do believe that if it hadn't been like that, I think Allen Robinson would have already been signed. I really believe that. Yeah. So yeah, his price, it's got to be at least 20 mil per year. I think that if he didn't get that, he's going to continue to sit there. But at the same, there's going to be a point in time though, where he's going to have to say, I got to sign with somebody, right? Like, even no matter what the price is, like, he can't sit there forever.
Right.
So it's extremely interesting that he's still available. No, Colton, that's not at all a problem. I'm actually completely okay with it. I did want to talk a little bit more about Allen Robinson. Do not worry, sir. All right, we're 150 strong. Hit the like button, please. And thank you, Jets fans. We're having an awesome time hanging out with you guys. Let's keep the conversation flowing and growing. Let's get rid of Jordan Whitehead. See ya, buddy.
Also, it's sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say he's the cousin of Darrelle Revis.
He is. That's a very cool picture there of him at the draft day party, if you haven't seen it, when he's like a very small child. But and by the way, no shame in getting information elsewhere. Unless this is your full-time job, it is completely to nearly impossible to know everything about. I was like, all right, wait, Jordan Whitehead, I've seen him play before. DJ Reed, all right, I know he's done that, but like, you got to see. And I like your point, which I saw on Twitter was, and I think it was you. I'm going to say it's you because I believe I'm correct. It is really cool to get the other fan base's reaction to what they're losing. Because I was reading a Seahawks, fan type of thing, website. And, they were like, how do we give all that money to Will Disley and let a guy like DJ Reed walk? And when fans are upset, it means something there also. So it's, you got to get information from somewhere. It's impossible to know everything about all these guys. It's intense.
Yep. So let's do this. Since I didn't have him in the topics because he was literally signed like 10 minutes before the stream, let's take a few moments. We've talked a little bit about Conklin. I'll speak on him just real quick, Vinny Bad. This was the guy I wanted, actually. This was my guy after Njoku fell off the market, after Schultz was off the market. I wanted this guy. I think that Conklin is young enough to be able to play on this team for 2 to 3 years. And, somebody in the comments mentioned earlier, over almost 600 yards and over 60 receptions, and didn't even play the whole year because they had the kid that they drafted just recently. Smith. What's his full name?
Irv Smith Jr.
Irv Smith Jr. Right. So he was actually playing early in the year, and then Mr. Conklin finally then got in the lineup and got his opportunity, and certainly made the most of it. And I think I said in the free agency prediction video, he's not Kittle. He's not a field stretcher. He's not going to like go down the middle of the seam and take it 60 yards. That's not his game. But he's a guy that can do everything. He can block. He can, find the soft spots in the zone and be an easy target for Zach Wilson. And to me, and again, I'm going to point back to what Grant Rude said. Excuse me, Grant Rude. He had said, I want a guy that's kind of like the red zone target. I want the guy that's like the chain mover. And I feel like we've actually checked off 2 of those on the list. We've got the red zone target in Uzomah. We've got the chain mover in Conklin. So maybe they were watching. Maybe Joe Douglas was watching us. Maybe that's
someone better watch.
Yeah, right. So anyway, I think that's where we're gonna leave it with Conklin. Do you want to say anything about the move in general?
Well, I like the move. I think the one thing I would say that's interesting is I'm pretty sure the Vikings run a very similar running scheme to our offense there. With that outside zone scheme with Dalvin Cook that they do. So blocking wise, if he provides, value there, obviously it's a similar scheme. I'm kind of thinking off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure they run a very similar system. So the familiarity there for him also is potentially a plus.
All right. And Harold is saying Conklin can actually move maybe more than you think, run after the catch wise. You may be selling him a little bit short. That could be the case. I am very high on him. Again, he was my guy. I thought that if we weren't going to get Njoku, this was the guy we should go after. When I say that he's not a field stretcher, I just mean that he's not an elite field stretcher. Not that he can't, catch the ball and turn around and run with it a little bit. But you're right. I think that there's upside with this. That's why I liked him so much, and I thought that he was a perfect fit for the team where we are right now. Yep, that's what I said in the video. He can do both. He can block, and he can, do some damage in the receiving game. All right, we are moving along here. Let's talk a little bit about, we'll do the re-signings, and then we're going to do our top 10 running backs in the NFL draft. And then we'll go through a mock draft here because I think everybody's a little thirsty for that because it's, we're 72 hours now out from the beginning of the tampering period. So let's go ahead and let's do our final topic here, which is, re-signing wise, we re-signed Dan Feeney, we re-signed Berrios, we re-signed Joe Flacco, we gave that tender to Mike White. We also traded Blake Cashman. You don't have to talk about all of these moves. We talked about Joe Flacco. What are your thoughts on any of these moves that we made to retain, which again, I think is something that is very, very important moving forward.
Yep. Yeah. So, I'll hit the big fish, right? Braxton Berrios felt like such a relief. Like it was a very weird feeling of like, it just felt like we weren't going to get him back. Like it was going to be one of those Andre Roberts situations, right? Mm-hmm. Where Andre Roberts has that all-pro kick returning and punt returning year. And then some team gives him just a lot of money. I can't remember who it was, but they gave him Buffalo. Yeah. They gave him a sizable contract, and it just wasn't something that our GM at the time, which wasn't Joe Douglas, was willing to pay. And then all of a sudden it comes out, okay, he may be asking for $9 million a year, $8 million a year. It just never felt like his value was going to go up that high. Maybe it's just his agent kind of trying to up the negotiation price with the Jets, which is a fair play. I understand it. Get all the money you can in this sport. But to get him for 2 for 12 with only 7 million guaranteed, I mean, it's a home run of a pick. He was the gadget that Mike LaFleur kind of almost found comfort in towards the end of the year, that he can use him in so many different ways. He scored 4 touchdowns, two receiving, two rushing. But he was that guy that Mike LaFleur could turn to. And then he all of a sudden turned into the guy that Zach Wilson could look into. He was very short-handed. So I was very excited that Braxton Berrios, he may have gotten something very similar from another team. So it does feel like he gave us that inch, that he wanted to be back. That's just very rare for us to feel. And I'll touch on Blake Cashman very, very quickly because I do like everything else depth wise, right? You bring back some familiarity on the offensive line, Mike White, Joe Flacco, all set there. Maybe someone actually gives Mike White that tender and we get a 5th-round pick for him. I don't know if that's possible, but I guess you never know. But Blake Cashman, all right. So Blake Cashman was a 5th-round pick in 2019. He's played 14 games for the Jets in 3 years. He's got 4, and listen, I'm sure I've been following him on Instagram since the Jets, drafted him. Seems like a great guy. It's nothing personal, but it's a business. Everyone knows it. When it comes down to the money and the trades, it's all a business. And to pick someone in the 5th round in 2019, to have him play 14 games in 3 years and have 49 total tackles, and then flip him for a 6th-round pick, basically what you drafted him for, is we shouldn't have gotten any compensation at all. So I don't know what the Texans were thinking, but Joe Douglas swung it around, and kudos to the guy. Some GMs, they may be sending a memo around the league. Don't pick up the phone if Joe Douglas is calling, because he's got some kind of hypnosis going on with the rest of the NFL GMs. He gets what he wants.
It's crazy. Yeah, and I will echo some of what you said with Berrios. I didn't think it was going to work out. I had that sinking feeling leading up to the free agency. And you're right, though, that agent of his was certainly playing games, because I remember the day before the tampering period opened up, there was leaks that he was going to go back to where he played college and go to the Miami Dolphins. So that was clearly an intentional leak by his agent to get the Jets, to try to budge. And I gave so much credit to Joe Douglas. We often pick on him for free agency, but he really stuck firm there.
Yep. And
great, great value. I've said it a million times. If Berrios only played special teams, he would still be worth, be re-signing him. Yeah. And the fact that they got more comfortable calling plays and legitimately featuring him and using him as a weapon on the offensive side, he is going to be a bigger part than I even realized moving forward offensively. I think they're going to use him the exact same way. Maybe he won't get as many downs played as he did last year, but I think they're going to have specific Berrios plays. Like, legitimately, they're going to design plays around him. He's fast. He is a speedy little son of a gun. He has got some explosive ability, and it's exciting to think about, getting the ball in his hands and some easy plays where Zach Wilson doesn't really have to do a whole lot. Very, very happy that he's back with the Jets. And that's the other thing. I see some people commenting on it right now. I don't really get the Nate Shepherd resigning. I think maybe they're just trying to, have some bodies on the inside, because they are maybe a little bit thin at this point, and that maybe is the reasoning behind it. We all like to pick on his penalties that he had last year and that he accumulated, but didn't really seem to do a whole lot, even if you're, being kind and ignoring the penalty issues that he had. It could have just been one of those things where it was just like, he couldn't stop once it became like a trend. He couldn't get over the penalty habit.
Yep.
Hopefully they can coach that out of him, though. And, he was pretty good, not last year, but the year prior. I thought he was actually a pretty good rotational piece. So maybe that's what they're thinking, is that, he had a down year. Maybe he'll get back to it this coming year. And Vern is right. It's a super cheap contract. So low risk, low reward. There's not a whole lot of downside to it. But of all of the moves, that would probably be, down on the bottom for me. Love the Joe Flacco re-signing. And I think it's going to help Zach to have that vet. We talked about it with Josh McCown for Sam Darnold. I think it's similar for Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson. Whew. All right. Let's go ahead and it's a lot of talking. It's a mouthful. All right, let's keep moving. It is. Let's keep going here. Let's go to our top 10 running backs in the draft. And guys, we will be doing our mock draft here. We'll do it live on the channel. Just as soon as we do our draft or our NFL draft running backs, because I spend too much time to not talk about this. I'm like taking a lot of notes, and I can't afford to bypass it. There's no way. So James, we'll do something that we've similarly done. We'll go 10 to 7. I'm sorry, 10 to 6, and we'll alternate, and then we'll do 5 to 1. I'll go first on this one, and then you'll go first on your top 5. All right. Yep. So number 10 for me is James Cook, the running back from Georgia. He ran better than I thought he would at the combine. Ran a 4.4. It was a sub 4.4 too. It was a pretty good time. 4.42 in fact. Less than 300 touches in college football, so not a lot of work, not a lot of tread. Still has plenty of tread on the tires. And the big thing that I'm reading with him is the versatility could be there, and could be a really, really good third down running back in the NFL. If that's his only role, but he's really good at it, I think that makes his value pretty high. Number 9 for me is Hassan Haskins. I wrote down Hassan Whiteside. That's a basketball player.
That is a basketball player.
But Hassan Haskins plays football, or did play football for Michigan. 6'1", 220 pounds. Ran pretty good for his size too. Ran a 4.5. He is an absolute workhorse. He carried the ball a lot. He had about 500 touches in his time at college football. His big thing is not an explosive athlete, does not have top burning speed, but physical monster on the inside. He's going to run, and he's going to be able to convert on short yardage situations, and he excelled at that in college. And he actually might be one of the better pass protecting running backs in this draft class. He's actually pretty good in pass pro. So for those reasons, I got him number 9. You might even be able to convince me that he could be higher on this list. Number 8, I have Brian Robinson from Alabama. 6'1", 226, ran a 4.51. It's the acceleration is a little bit in question, right? Like he can obviously accelerate because he ran a 4.5, but I think from like the initial burst is maybe not great. And his long college run, 37 yards. So you can tell that, he's not a breakaway running back by any means, but you wouldn't be drafting him to be that. And again, when I make these lists, I'm picturing them as Jets. Like I'm picturing them filling roles on the team. And he's going to be that guy, kind of like a Hassan White. Oh, shit. I just did it again. Hassan Haskins. Hassan Haskins. He's kind of like that. He's going to be running a little bit on the inside, but he can do the outside as well. He can run to the outside. And great with initial contact. He brings his pad level down. And no injuries in his college career. Number 7 is Tyler Algier. I want to put him up so much higher. But I can't. I think that this is a fair ranking for him. Still young, 22 years old, north-south runner, willing blocker, great patience in the screen game. He is a big running back, 220 pounds at 5'11", but he's not a stone hands kind of running back. This is a guy that can catch the football and would help Zach Wilson with some familiarity. And I think he is one of the best compliments to Michael Carter, I think, in this draft class. So I have him 7. Number 6, and then it's going to be James's turn. I have Jerome Ford, I've looked at some rankings for him. There are people that have him in the top 5 in their rankings. 5'11", 209 pound pack from Cincinnati. Big negative for him. Not really a natural receiver is what I read about him. And he's going to be 23 years old. So he's a little bit on the older side. And for a running back, you want to get them as young as possible. And some of the youngest ones are in my top 5. So the vision is there, and he's very, very quick twitch and explosive. 4.46 40-yard dash. I skipped a spot. Did I skip a spot? 10, 9. Didn't I do 9? No? Yes? No?
It was 9.
I skipped a spot, indeed. I'm trying to find them on my list. Oh, it was Hassan, wasn't it? 10 was James Cook. 9 was Haskins. 8 was Robinson. 7 was Algier. 6 was Ford. I didn't skip nothing.
Oh, yeah. No, you didn't skip.
All right, it's your turn.
So you ready? Because this is going to be fun because
nothing like it.
There's a lot of good running backs, and when you go and see everyone's rankings, like I was like, holy crap! Like I was looking and I'm like, all right, well I didn't have that guy like really anywhere close. Also, and then you're right, I do have it geared towards what the Jets could potentially be looking for. So I did it that way. So there are some big names that I did leave off my list. Like I didn't put Jerome Ford in there. He's 23, catching out of the backfield, etc.
Yep.
I didn't put Hassan Haskins in there either. Reason being was I thought it was more maybe a gap inside power type of run game that he was a part of at Michigan. And so on the outsides with the outside zone scheme, I'm not sure the fit there, but a tremendous player. He's going to go, he's going to go very high. So I kind of, not very high, but he's going to go, within that top group of the running backs there. But for purposes there, I just kind of left him off the list, but I wanted to mention him. Number 10, I have Rashad White, Arizona State.
Whoa. Okay. Keep going. Yeah. Sorry. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So I have him 4.48 40 at the combine. There is a lot of intrigue there for me because of the combination of like the tools that he possesses all around. The vision, the jump cuts, he finds the open lane. And then when he's in the open field, he's pretty impressive as an open field runner. He's got a vertical to him there. He had I didn't put down his vertical, but judging by the guys that he jumped over at Arizona State, it's probably pretty high. He has a nice spin move to him. And then he's a threat as a pass catcher. There were some people that were saying, hey, listen, this guy could potentially split out and play wide receiver, run routes. So some scouting reports even said they envision him more so that way, which was rather interesting because I did think his vision and his ability to find the open lanes was really impressive at Arizona State. He had 1,000 yards, 40 something catches for just about almost 500 yards. So all around player there that I'm really intrigued with. And I think the Jets would be, interested in him as an addition. My number 9 is Pierre Strong Jr. out of South Dakota State.
I read about him.
Blazing 4.37 40 at the combine. Listen to Connor Rogers' new podcast right after the combine, and he kind of talked about him as South Dakota State having that outside zone type of scheme. And this dude is a burner. I mean, like he hits that when he decides he's gonna hit the hole, right? When you're talking about the outside zone scheme, they have a read to make, right? They're either going to bounce it outside or they're going to cut their left foot, their right foot, and go directly north and hit the hole if it's open. That's that, zone scheme. You're figuring out where to go. And there's a timing aspect to it where you have to be in sync with your offensive line. And so what I watched, I didn't really watch tape. I just watched what I could find. There was like South Dakota kind of clips on YouTube there where were pretty interesting. And he's got the home run hitting ability. He put his foot in the ground, and once he decided to, he was gone. Now the FCS level, sure, it's a question mark competition wise, I'm sure, for some people or most people, but in the end, like, listen, if you give a guy a lane with the offensive line and he's got traits, we've seen guys from all over the place be able to play running back at all points in the draft. So he can excel in the zone blocking scheme. So I put him up at 9 and kind of are pretty interested to see where he goes after after his combine performance there.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8. So this is one that I have, I think, a lot lower than probably mostly everybody. I couldn't find it there. Dameon Pierce out of Florida. I put at number 8. And I like the play style, right? I like the play style. He's 218 pounds, so he's a bigger back. He's your power back, right?
Yep.
He's 4.59 in the 40, so just under 4.6. So there's not really any blazing speed there. But he runs really low and he refuses to go down. I actually watched him live at Florida State.
James would kick my ass. Are you serious? It would be an embarrassment. Go ahead. Keep talking.
There you go. Grant's always got the interesting stuff there. Like, good idea though there. But Dameon Pierce, I watched them live. I went to Florida State at the Swamp in Gainesville. And he had one run, which I'm sure everyone's probably seen, where his helmet comes off and he continues to go. He is just a super physical, put his body on the line. What was so weird about him was I've seen him as high as like 3 or 4 or 5, and with more opportunity, he looks like he can very well be a great player. But PFF had made a note that he didn't play more than 23 snaps in any football game in 2021. He had 100 carries on the season, but they still actually gave him their highest rushing grade, PFF did, of the 2021 season. So he did a lot with the small amount of work that he got there. So it's interesting. I want to see what he can do with more opportunity, but just because of the workload there in the season, I just kind of dropped him just a little bit lower than some people have him. Now, number 7 is my guy, Brian Robinson Jr. So me and you have him pretty similar, yeah. Pretty similar there. Now, you want to talk about a big back. He's 6'2", 225 pounds. And I was very impressed with his 40-yard dash at the combine, because you're exactly right. That long speed, that burst to get the home run, it just wasn't there when he played at Alabama. And it's probably not going to be there when he's in the NFL. But a 4.53 at that size is pretty impressive. He's the big physical runner. He doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires. He stuck his years out behind all the incredible running backs Alabama has had, and he got his shot in 2021. And I did think he had more wiggle in short space than people gave him credit for. The jump cuts to try to find the holes, I think ultimately shotgun a bit. There you go. Yeah. You may beat me in that one though. I'm not the best shotgun beer, so my time would be very, very, very slow there. So I do think he has a lot of effectiveness as a runner, because it's not always all about the home run ability, right? You need to be able to have the vision and to play. And listen, if he's the short yard back that gets you the yards you need on third down, if he's the short yard back that gets you in the goal line, touchdowns near the goal line, that's an effective player that anyone can have in a running back committee. And he also can catch the football. That is a plus to his game. And there are pass blocking snaps for him that maybe not so good, but there are also some that are very good from him. And I think he showed that off also in the Senior Bowl. We watched him against one of the Georgia linebackers kind of go head to head, and it was pretty impressive. So I got Brian Robinson Jr. at number 7. And then number 6, I have at James Cook. So this was a tough one for me, because I do agree with you with him in terms of the 40 was really impressive. 4.42. He is 199 pounds, so he's under 200 pounds. So he's a lighter of a back, but he's got big playability. And it really kind of feels like it comes from the passing game. And it becomes, all right, well, he didn't get a whole lot of carries at Georgia. 113 carries, 45. He had over 45 carries for the first time in 2021. So he didn't get the ball a whole lot at Georgia in the running game. I think the versatility aspect, though, is going to jump him up certain boards, and teams are going to feel like, all right, we can plug him in here. And then all of a sudden, hey, if we can put him in the backfield and he becomes a runner, now we have a versatile weapon that we could put in a lot of different places. So that's why I jumped him up despite not having the workload kind of, I mean, I dropped Dameon Pierce because of the workload a little bit there, but I think versatility wise, where the NFL is going, James Cook is going to be high on a lot of people's list there. And I'll go, you want to go top 5 or am I
No,
continuing?
it's. I do want to throw one thing out there about
Yep.
Pierre Strong. So he had a lot of touches. It's not a reason to like completely take somebody off your board. Almost 700 career touches. Excuse me, and he is 24 years old.
Oh, is he really? I didn't read that. Okay. Wow.
So yeah, I did some. That was one of the things I will give myself a pat on the back. I tried to find their workloads in college, and I tried to find
Yep.
their ages, and he is. That was the reason I actually had him at 10, and then I found out he was 24, and I went. I said you got to fall a little bit for that because 24 years old as a running back, he's probably going to be a day 3 pick. I think for that.
Yes.
For one of those reasons. That'll be one of the reasons he falls. Yes, top 5 is all you. And then if you guys are still watching, we still have over 100 of you. Go ahead and hit the like button, and we will be doing our mock draft after that, and then we will conclude episode 46.
I had to go and write 24 next to my Pierre Strong notes. I did because you're right. That matters. That matters. And because second contract comes around and you're 28 years old as a running back. That's kind of it for you, I think.
Yep.
Most of the time anyway. All right. So where did I leave off? 6-5. So I did move Tyler Algier up. I moved him to 5. And so I moved him to 5. He's 224 pounds. He's a bigger back, not a big 40 time, 4.60. So I don't like to get too caught up in the 40 time for the bigger backs because it's just the nature of the beast there. A lot of people take the 40 time to church there, and it's everything running back wise. If you can have the vision and you are a tremendous pass blocker, and of course you fit that zone scheme. PFF had him at 213 zone attempts in 2021. So that's a good nugget. He's got that. Yep. Good nugget there. And second in yards after contact, 9th in missed tackles forced. So he's a guy he's a bigger back. He did have plays where he did maybe, break out the longer run in the NFL. I'm not maybe sure he, maybe could beat that angle, but you want to talk about a football player. He's a football player. He's a guy you can probably put him as a third, a third 3 down back kind of guy. He can pass block for you if you need him to. He has some ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. And then ultimately he could be a bruiser, in the run game and, 23 rushing touchdowns, even at, I know the competition level, but hey, 23 rushing touchdowns in one season, you're doing something right there. Yep. And so I have him at number 5. I value the whole football player aspect of being able to do a lot of things. And that brings me to my number 4, which is Kyren Williams out of Notre Dame.
Wow.
I don't want to drop him all that far because of the 40. Again, the 4.65. He's 194 pounds. So that is not good. It's not good, right? Overall, you can't, if you want to be a guy who, is, burning NFL, angles from defensive backs at 194 pounds, you're probably going to want to run a whole heck of a lot faster than 4.65. I don't know who advised him to run the 40. They must have known, unless he had a bad day. That's all.
Yeah.
But one of the, and I'll go back to the whole football player thing. One of the quotes that I liked from Daniel Jeremiah during the draft was, when you call someone a football player, it's one of the highest. It sounds so like, it sounds so cliche, but he said it's one of the best compliments that you can give, just a draft prospect altogether. So he's, deemed the most willing and the best pass blocker in the entire draft. He's a great catcher of the football. You're going to be able to do a whole lot with him in the passing game, which is his plus there. The vision, and when he gets to the second level, he finds ways to make plays. Like, he's actually creative. And I think that's why he was such a great player at Notre Dame. I mean, he was a phenomenal player at Notre Dame. When Connor Rogers was talking about him on the podcast, he was basically saying he was praying that the testing would equal what he saw on film there, because the film is the film, and that's what he is. And then the testing just didn't wind up to be what it is, but I didn't want to drop him all that far just because I think he is really, really good, really solid. And for the Jets, if we're talking about the Jets, we need someone who could catch the football and we need someone who could pass block, come in on third down. Ty Johnson was not that guy last year. Michael Carter is going to get a bulk of the reps on first and second down, and he can catch the football. But when we need someone to come in, and I know we have Tevin Coleman back, but Kyron Williams would be a great fit to be able to fit a role in this committee for the Jets. And so I bumped him up pretty high. I'll take some heat for it, but I'm willing to take that heat for it. So I just think he's going to be a very good contributor in a running back room in the NFL.
I remember you talking about him. He's pretty high on your list then. So I have to do more work on him.
Yeah, and he did it for more than 1 years there. More than 1 year. I don't know why I said it like that. More than one, more than 1 year. When you go back and you read like a lot of draft analysis going into this college football season, he was a guy that was, close to or at the top of everyone's list on potentially a running back 2, running back 3 in the class. And then I think the testing has dropped him, but really good football player. Number 3 for me, Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M. He did not run at the combine, so I don't know speed-wise, but ultimately the long speed for him is in question, but he's got that elusiveness to him. He's got the ability to find the hole. He hits them, and then he's got the ability to make the defenders miss. The breakaway speed doesn't seem to be there, but then he's also a plus out of the backfield, and as a pass blocker, he did a number this year on Alabama, which sticks in my mind every time I hear his name. And he is very highly rated on a lot of people's lists. I've seen him as the number 1 running back on some lists. I'm sure you've seen potentially the same. And so Isaiah Spiller, maybe not as much hype right now because he didn't run at the combine, so we didn't see him. And he's a junior, I believe. So he wasn't at anything like the Senior Bowl, but a kind of a complete package when it comes to the running back, just lacks that breakaway speed there. Number 2. So I have Kenneth Walker as my number 2. 5'11", 211 pounds, 4.38 in the 40. That was a great time for him.
Oh, yeah.
PFF ranked him as number 1 in yards after contact, number 1 in missed tackles forced. The cool PFF stat about him that I found super interesting was he had 4.46 yards after contact per attempt. So like he's got so many yards after contact that per attempt, it's just averaging out to be, something ridiculous. So he's got the power and the speed, and he can take on the workload. He can be a guy that's going to be, a potential workhorse back there that you could feed the football a whole heck of a lot. But he doesn't see that much in the passing game, but due to his running ability, I still have him number 2. PFF wrote, and I have to kind of maybe confirm this, but they wrote that he wants no part of pass protection. That was a direct quote from PFF. So kind of interesting there because some other scouting reports listed him as, maybe sometimes disinterested, but having no part of kind of pass protection there is a little bit of a concern. But since we're talking about running backs and now how their committees nowadays, how they're mostly kind of structured there. His rushing ability is kind of off the charts in terms of what he could do as a running back. So, and my number 1, and he's been my number 1 for quite a while here, is Breece Hall out of Iowa State, 5'11", 217, 4.39 in the 40, which I thought was a fantastic time for him. 40-inch vertical as well. He's got some explosion to him. Again, another broken tackle machine here. He had 10 broken tackles in 3 straight games in 2021. And one of those games was against Baylor's defense, which is, no joke of a defense there to be running through. Most broken tackles over the last 3 seasons in college football. Zone scheme fit there. So he's got great vision. He's tough to bring down. And he's able to catch the football out of the backfield. Stat wise, I mean, listen, he was the Iowa State offense, basically. We talk about, Charlie Kolar over there at tight end, and, Brock Purdy was the quarterback. Wasn't a major, kind of passing offense there, but When they gave it to Iowa State, when they gave it to Breece Hall, he got the job done. No matter the blocking, no matter no matter the focus on him, he was able to get it done. 3,000 yards and 41 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 years. He's a guy. He's got a lot of workload to him. So
Yes.
that is definitely something to consider there. But I think someone that can legitimately step in day one as someone's running back and handle a lot in his rookie year. So there's my top 10.
Great
So
stuff,
that was
man.
fun.
I don't have Kyron. Is it Kyron Williams?
Yep.
He is the big difference in our list. I don't have him in my top 10. The 40 time really, and the size speed combination is not there for me to put him in there, but I am going to learn. I'm going to watch him a little bit more than and I think Vern even said the same thing. Got to watch him a little bit because, if you're pretty high on him, I think he's worth checking out. And you said Connor Hughes, Connor Hughes. No, not Connor Hughes.
Connor Rogers. Yeah.
Yes. He is also high on him, so I respect his takes as well. So I'll got to check them out. All right, my top 5. I'll go pretty quick here. Dameon Pierce is my number 5. I think, again, when you're talking about trying to find a complement for Michael Carter, I think he might be the best power back in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And his negatives really are just straight line speed, and he's not really a creator with the ball in one-on-one situations. He's just kind of that plowing north-south guy. Nothing wrong with that, but again, that's just a negative for him. Number 4, this is a pretty big difference for us. I have Rachaad White actually at number 4. He is kind of the more complete version of what I think James Cook isn't. Like, James Cook is that third down guy. He's going to be the versatile guy, and I like him a lot for that. I think Rachaad White has the size to be able to handle a little bit more work. And apparently, I don't know who looks like Boy Green. I guess maybe it's you? I don't know.
Do I?
I don't know. I'm wondering. I'm not sure. I keep seeing it in the chat, so I had to put it up there. It's confusing me. But anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked.
That's right.
Yes. So Rachaad White, to me, he is the burst, the elite. He has good hands, so he can actually put his hands out and catch the football. And the big knock for him, for me on my list, is he's a little bit taller, so he's an upright runner, and he is 23 years old. He's kind of on that edge where I'm not really loving the fact that he's that old. But less than 300 career touches, and he's really, really good. Creates, can do a bunch of different things. You had mentioned some spin moves and, juke moves. He's got a lot of different tricks in his bag. So he's a 4 for me. Kenneth Walker, and this is where it kind of gets the same. Kenneth Walker is my number 3. 21 years old. All of the backs that I put in my top 3 are younger guys, and they can run. They can all move, and they can all, break tackles and do things with the ball in their hands. Kenneth Walker, to me, he's probably the most quick twitch, guy in the draft class, I would say, maybe. And that low center of gravity, he certainly has that going for him as well. And I had put on my negatives little to no receiving production. The numbers are skewed heavily towards the running game. So even if he was a good pass blocker, he doesn't offer anything much in the receiving game. Isaiah Spiller is my number 2 for that reason. He's 20 years old. He's young, and pass pro is not bad. I think somebody had mentioned earlier that he's a pretty good pass blocker. I think in this draft class, there's not a whole lot of, developed pass blocking running backs, ready to step in day one. Doesn't mean that they can't learn it, and they certainly will need to learn it, but I think that's probably his big thing. Change of direction's not great for him, but the hands are still pretty good, so he'll be able to be a threat in the receiving game. And he's really good one-on-one. He's going to be able to break tackles. He's going to be able to make moves, and just super strong running the football. And then same one, Breece Hall. He's number 1. Big knocks on him, about 800 career touches. So he had a lot of work, but the positive and the reason why I kept him at number 1 is he is also 20 years old. So even if you're sitting there saying, gosh, he had too many touches in college football, his youth is on his side. And I think that for that reason, I'm not real uncomfortable putting him as the number one back. And you had mentioned the athleticism. It's through the roof for him. So Breece Hall completes my list. And there you go. There's your top 10 running backs. And we do have a super chat here from Mike Jerome, so we'll get to that. Thank you, Mike Jerome, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. He says Rachaad White is a perfect fit. Great vision, size, speed, and I would also throw in the receiving ability. I don't want to lose that, and I think that's something that I think is important. I don't want a running back to complement Michael Carter just because he can run north and south and get the short yardage stuff. I want the running back that we get to complement him to be able to be a factor in the receiving game, because then it makes it even harder for the defense to know what's coming, pass or run. So there you go. And thank you very much. You agree with me. Rachaad White's pretty high on my list. He might be a little bit too high. I know that he's not in most lists in the top 5, but I'm projecting him to be a pretty good fit in the NFL and for the Jets. So that's the reason. Let's go to Rick Fisher. He says, hi guys, great stream tonight. I've been learning a lot. You have not been in the comments, but it means a lot to see that you are enjoying the stream. Thank you very much, Rick Fisher. Really appreciate that. All right. We got a little bit of time left. You up for a quick mock?
Let's do it.
Sweet. We got 100 people in here. We're going to make sure that we try to involve you guys. I might say tonight we might try to do more of what we would do, because this is post free agency, and it would be interesting to see, how you and I would go about doing this, but that does not mean we won't listen to you chat. So please make sure your voices are heard and let us know who you want us to take at each pick. And there you go. There's the screen. We've got it all set up for you. Nice and pretty. This is James's simulator that he found for me, and it's nice, and it looks good on the screen too, which I really like. Let's see here. Vern says, yeah, ignore the chat. I won't exclusively ignore the chat, but I did think that maybe one of these times we should do like a true NYJ. Oh, shoot. Maybe we should do a true Jets Today mock draft, so you guys can see where our heads would be at. Grant Rude says, yeah, post free agency, John, and underappreciated good looks. In my opinion, James ruled the draft. Yep. And I actually am. So Grant, funny thing, I do want to do the combine thing. I want to try that out. I think that would be pretty funny. I am interested to see what kind of a 40 I could run. About 2 years ago, I was in the best shape of my life, and I think I would have actually crushed it. I was benching, 200 plus pounds. I was putting it up. So it wouldn't have been too bad for me a couple of years ago, but now it would be I'm a sorry sack, for a shell of my former self. All right, no more dilly dally. Let's get into this mock draft. I'm going to go ahead and tell them to continue, and we will go ahead and take a peek at what is available. And right away, you can see our 2 edge rushers are gone, as well as Evan Neal. He goes to the Houston Texans. So we are on the clock. And I got to say, after seeing what we did in free agency, I am out on Ikem Ekwonu. I don't think I would take him at number 4. And I think that it's not one of those scenarios where you're passing on the best player available kind of situation. I don't really have any guilt by saying that. I feel like it's more important that we go at a different position, just to be perfectly frank with you. I think there are players of equal caliber. So what are your thoughts on Ikem now that we have Laken Tomlinson in the fold?
Yeah, I'm wondering, so George Fant, is this the last year of his contract?
It indeed is.
Is he still in play because of that reason, and then you don't have to worry about George Fant? And listen, he can slide in, he can sit back, he can learn. And I know, with the 4th pick, with the team the way it is structured, you want to pick someone who can contribute right away.
Yes.
But then you also kind of think about it. Okay, what are we going to get from, Becton? Like, what if Becton really does like just go off the rails and it just doesn't work out at all? I know we got McDermott back, but we can't go into a situation in 2022 with McDermott playing anything close to um, valuable time on this offensive line. He's just not good. That's kind of just the fact of the
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
He can catch the football apparently, but really can't block worth a damn. So, I Chem, it's a tough one. This is very hard with the way the board falls. Like, if the Jets really are in a situation where they're not entirely sure about Breece Hall and Brandon Eccles, and they're just going to let them fight it out, and the best man wins, and you have DJ Reed on the other side, do you really let go of an Ahmad Gardner at 4? I'm like stuck here because of the way free agency worked, and then this board. I mean, either way, listen, if Kayvon Thibodeau's not there, I think we have a hard choice to make. Oh man, what would you go? Would you go Kyle Hamilton?
Me? No, I would not.
Where would you go?
So just want to read what Big Al said here. He says, you can't take a guy at 4 and not play him. And I kind of agree with that. I think that that's a very heavy insurance policy. Having said that, though, you're right. If they don't plan to keep George Fant going into 2023, it would be kind of nice to have that. But I think, as I've said all along, we can find an offensive tackle, for the future in the mid. We can do that in the mid rounds. There's no reason to have. Nix is actually timing us. He says 10 seconds left. No timer. This is a Madden draft. We're pausing that clock, buddy. I am not taking Ekwonu. I think that that's a very expensive insurance policy and a very expensive player that you're not going to really, expect to see on the football field. I am actually leaning towards either taking, Jermaine Johnson or an edge rusher here, or taking Garrett Wilson. I think he's gone, man. I think that he will not make it to 10. So, and I'll throw another name in there. Ahmad Gardner, I think, still makes a ton of sense. He's another one of those guys like Garrett Wilson. I don't know if he makes it to 10. And so for me, if I'm telling you who I would take, I would probably go ahead and take the edge personally. That's what I would do. And then see what's available at 10. I think that there's still a number of guys on the board. If Ekwonu fell to 10, I'd probably then consider it, I guess. Like, it's kind of like the Hamilton thing. Sure. Ahmad Gardner is another name that I would consider at 10 as well. Whoops, don't want to zoom out. Let's see what else is on the board here. Trayvon Walker, I guess if we take our edge, he's kind of off the board. Jordan Davis, Tyler Linderbaum. I'm not really keen on Linderbaum. You could make the case for a linebacker at 10. So to me, I feel like Gardner, if you're going to go edge at 10, makes the most sense. Or, whoops, now I'm projecting the wrong thing. Hold on, let me get that right. I think that Garrett Wilson, I'm going to go with that. I think that would be where I would go. Okay. No edges there, don't reach. So we agree there. So, welcome to the dark side. Yeah, he has been saying that from the beginning.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and you say Gardner and I say let's do Garrett Wilson. And I think that for this pick, I'm fine with involving you guys. So go ahead. We have 100 plus of you guys. Throw in the chat if you're picking between those two guys, Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver, or Ahmad Gardner, who you want. And I think the case could be made for both. And Gardner, I think the value is there for him because you're not going to get, I think there's a drop off between Gardner. Do a poll. I am feeling lazy, Kev Chatta, if you want the truth, buddy.
I think Kev Chatta too. I saw a comment where he mentioned Moses can be our swing tackle. He did sign with the Baltimore Ravens for 3 years. So we will not have Morgan Moses as kind of that insurance policy just in case something does happen there.
Yeah, so if you want me to make a poll, I'm going to need just a few seconds here, fellas, because I don't have my... Because I need to pull up the actual, like, stream chat to be able to do that. So give me a hot second here. I got to end the other poll as well. All right, pop out the chat. Don't worry, I'm working my magic, y'all. Working. Okay, here we go. I got the poll up, and I'm going to make it Gardner, Wilson, go, vote. You sons of guns making me work. All right, so the poll is in there, guys. Go ahead and take a look and make your vote right now. I think that, again, I feel pretty good about either one of these picks, and I feel like the better move here since Thibodeau is gone is you can go ahead and get your edge at 10, I think. Trayvon Walker, Carl Laftis, Jermaine Johnson. There's a lot of different... Oh, wow. So people that are quiet are now commenting because they want their guy to be picked. It's funny. It's funny how that works. It's super cool, though. I love that you guys are throwing your names in there. I really appreciate that. Let me get the live chat. Let's see how this poll is doing. Oh, yeah. Gardner is slaughtering. 83% to 17%. I'm going to give you guys 5 more seconds. I'm going to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. It is Sauce, the man Gardner. We're going to go ahead and make him the pick. And I feel good about that because now we can go ahead and get our edge at 10. I really do like the idea of double dipping defense in the first round. I think you can get a wide receiver in the second round. We could also take a wide receiver here, though, because Garrett Wilson's available.
Yep, either Garrett Wilson or Jermaine Johnson here. I think that's
yeah. And this is where it gets so tricky because we took the corner. I really do feel like our two top needs right now are edge and wide receiver. So if you ask me, I feel like it's a no-brainer. I feel like more than even wide receiver, I want the edge. I'm leaning Jermaine Johnson heavily here. But I think you're right. I think it's definitely between those two. God Gui. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. He says, let's go get JJ. Anthony Coleman is saying Wilson, clearly. Ekwonu is still there. I didn't even see that. Yep.
Oh, is he really?
Ikem is still there. Malik Willis went number 9. So that is a factor. Derek Stingley also went in the top 8. So he's saying take Wilson at 35, edge at 35. Wilson and then edge at 35. Let's go ahead and let's do yet another poll because this is one that is, I think, a little bit harder than the first one. If you ask me, I'm doing a terrible job right now. Let me get this right. Okay. So the poll is going to end and we're going to create another one here. And I'll be honest with you, after this poll, we'll probably say screw you guys and we'll do the rest of our picks ourselves. But these first rounders, I think, are pretty important. So we'll give you the shot here. So we're going to say JJ. I'll give a couple of options. We'll say Carl Loftus, Garrett Wilson, and I'll also even throw, you want to do Ekwonu or London?
I'd throw Ekwonu in there just because,
we'll do it.
He's not going to be there at 10, but...
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, he might be the best offensive lineman.
Yeah, I think it's definitely trending that way, for sure.
Chris A, yes, you can trade. In this scenario, I guess we could look for more picks, but I don't know. I feel like I like what's available. I feel like I don't want to miss out on Garrett Wilson. I don't want to miss out on JJ. If things were a little bit different, and maybe like the Seattle Seahawks took somebody that I wanted, and maybe the Falcons took Garrett Wilson, then I might consider it. Like if the Falcons take Garrett Wilson and the Seahawks take, a pass rusher, then I might say to myself, okay, the value might not be there to take a player. Let's go ahead and scoot back a few spots. Sergeant Mike, he says, great defensive players all have one weakness, BS penalties from the refs, less BS. Okay, we're talking about penalties. Let's see. Put JJ in the poll. He is in the poll. I already created the poll. Go ahead and vote, guys. JJ is the top vote getter right now with 33%. This is much, much closer. JJ at 33, Carl Laftis 19, Wilson 26, Ekwonu 22. So pretty daggone close. I will give you guys about 10 more. Oh, wow, I can put it up. Look at that.
Cool.
That's kind of cool. There you go. Now you can see it. I'm learning all kinds of tricks. This is great. on the fly as well. All right. I will say let's go with 5 seconds. 34% to 31% right now. That's pretty daggone close. That's been more than 5 seconds, but it's so close. I just want to give you guys a chance to vote. Wilson and Edge, he's saying do that. I don't think it's going to happen. Right now it's JJ, guys. JJ, I don't think JJ at 10 is a reach. I think you need to potentially consider, the fact that he is on the rise. Maybe you like Trayvon Walker a little bit more, or maybe you just want Wilson. Oh, Jesus. Now it's tied 32%. So it's going to be our pick in the end. I don't know. What do you think right now? If we're going to ignore the poll because it's tied, I still lean towards the Edge, but I get it. I think Garrett Wilson is also very intriguing.
I'm leaning towards the Edge. I think we need some help. We need some help there, and it doesn't look like we're going to address it anytime soon in free agency, potentially. So,
right. It's a tough one. That's kind of why the Gardner pick is tricky, because then you are almost forced to choose. All right, it's 40 votes, and we've got about 120 of you right now, and JJ is leading just by the slimmest of margins. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make him a New York Jet right now. It's gonna be double defense in round 1, and you can safely assume that we're gonna get some really good players in round 2 to help the offense. And for the record, JJ has taken a pretty commanding lead now, 34 to 29. So JJ is the pick at number 10. We're going to draft him. And depending on who's available at 35 and 38, I feel like that could be a home run draft for the Jets. Again, depending on what's available in round 2. I'm hoping for a wide receiver here. We shall see who is available, though. All right. Let's take a look at the board, and let's take a look at wide receiver first. Okay, so wide receiver dried up pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
George Pickens is pretty popular amongst fans. Let's take a look at who went real quick here. I don't want to spend too much time here, but Garrett Wilson went right after us. Tyler Linderbaum. He's gone to the Ravens in almost every time we've done this mock draft. It's weird. Chris Olave, that's interesting. Devin Lloyd, he always ends up as an Eagle in this mock draft simulator as well.
Yep.
Jamison Williams with the Patriots. Nakobe Dean with the Packers. That's pretty cool. Oh yeah, Devin Lloyd did go. Okay, so there's the picks, and we're going to go through the available players pretty quickly here as well. Kaiir Elam, the cornerback. We're not going cornerback again. George Pickens. Jaquan Brisker is there. I don't know if we can take a third defensive player. So here's the thing. We passed on Garrett Wilson, and now I'm looking at it. Boye Mafe right here could have been pretty intriguing as well.
Yep.
Kev Chada is saying Brisker, please. Michael N said Ekwonu dropped to 18.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't know what happened there, but
Christian Watson, I think that could be a good pick for us. I prefer Watson over Pickens as well, Grant Rude says. Harold says
Watson too, yeah.
George Pickens. I'm leaning towards Watson. I think that there's a lot of upside there. Pickens is a really good run blocker if I'm remembering correctly. There was a lot of clips of him just absolutely bulldozing dudes. And he has like a really cool technique. Like he does like a foot chop thing in the ground. Like he looks like he's about to break a route, and then he just smashes them in the chest. And he does it. He's done it like a number of times in games where he has this like specific move that puts the DBs like on their backs of their heels and just pancakes them, literally. Not a reason to draft somebody at 35, but just saying.
Right.
Jahan Dotson is gone. That's my guy. If I don't, he is gone. And let's see where he went, actually.
It's like
He went
29.
29. Yep. So he's gone. So we're going to make a poll. And I think we're all pretty comfortable with maybe going with a wide receiver or a safety here. Let's see which safeties are available. Okay, Brisker, Pitre, and that's probably all you could consider at that spot. Linebacker, Christian Harris could be interesting.
Yep.
So let's do that. Let's do the 2 wide receivers, Brisker and Christian Harris. So Harris is the linebacker, guys. Brisker is the safety. And we're going to throw both wide receiver options in there as well. Watson and Pickens. Go. Vote, you sons of guns. Vote. Pickens is a stud, according to Eduardo Paez. JJ at 10 is a big reach. That's the second person that's said that. I don't see that. I mean, there are people out there, and maybe this is like ridiculous to you, but there are people that say maybe take him even at 4. I mean, I don't know if that's going to end up happening necessarily, but I think that there is a fair number of people that think he is going to be a top 10 pick. And if not,
for sure.
I think he's a lock for top 15. So I don't know if that makes him a reach. You know, if he's going to be a top 15 pick, why can't he be a top 10 pick is kind of what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. All right. Right now, Pickens is winning. Now it's tied with Watson. Go ahead and cast your vote, guys. Is Wilson still available? No. So let me go to, while the voting is happening, here is the big board of players that are available. And I'll kind of scroll through this kind of slowly here. But, you know, let's go ahead and, James, let's give who we would take here. I would actually probably go with Watson. That would be my selection.
I would go with Watson as well. Travis Jones is an interesting one.
Yes.
Barry on Winfrey there. I do think they, you know, as much as we maybe don't want to do it, they do need help on that interior defensive line. You know, we got the edge help, but they do need to add somebody there, I think. So I would go Watson here. And then we may be right back to the defense at 38.
West Coast Jets is saying I would have traded back into the first to get a wide receiver. Okay, that's a fair point to make. And maybe the next time we do this, that's what we'll do. If we do end up going this route, we'll trade up. Because I think that's a fair point to make. If Joe Douglas passes on wide receiver at 10, which is not impossible, I do think that is a very, very, very likely scenario that he makes a move, kind of like what he did with AVT, trading up and going and getting that guy. We will do that. Maybe we'll do that next week. We'll do a trade up from 35 to get our third first round pick. I will write that down actually, because that would be fun. All right. The poll is probably done. 30, 30, and 33. I'm going to give you 10 more seconds. Pickens is in the lead, though, for anybody that's interested. I'm going to go ahead and say mock. Let's do 3 first-round picks next week. That would be fun. Okay. The poll is done. Pickens is the winner. And there are a ton of people that really like George Pickens, and I don't really have a problem with that. I do prefer Watson, but Pickens, there's a lot of hype on that guy. Brisker went 36. That kind of sucks. Okay, so we are now down to linebacker Christian Harris. I think that makes a ton of sense. And also, what's the other position that we were looking at? D-line. So we got Perion Winfrey. I'll be honest with you, I do not know these interior linemen. Logan Hall, DeMarvin Leal. You said something about Travis Jones. Certainly could use an interior defensive lineman here. I am not. Whoa, that got screwed up. Sorry, guys. I am not personally going to go tight end here. I don't know if that makes you mad, but I just don't think we can afford to do tight end at this point. We still need help at other positions. JC is saying I would go running back. I'm leaning running back in at the earliest round 4. That's just my personal preference right now. Logan Hall, Anthony Coleman is saying that's why you take Brisker there. Yeah, man. Listen, there's always gonna be that second guessing with these mock drafts. You're never gonna be able to get the perfect scenario because it's just too hard to predict. In hindsight, I would say maybe Wilson at 10 and then your edge at 35, but I do still believe that JJ is a top, he's a top tier type of edge, prospect. So I feel good about it pairing him up with Sauce Gardner. Someone might trade up in front of the Giants to grab Ekwonu in this scenario. Conscious ZG, thank you for the comment. But I'm taking Sauce, if not a trade back. Thank you for adding that as well. A little support for our draft. Michael is saying, let's go ahead and take Harris right now. What do you think? Let's do a pick without the poll. I am leaning defensive line, interior, or linebacker here. I kind of like Christian Harris, but again, whoops, sorry, that's Twitter. What are your thoughts, James?
Yeah, I feel like I would go interior defensive line here. They definitely need the help. The interior defensive line there. Logan Hall, I'm not all that familiar with. DeMarvin Leal, or Leal, he was a very highly sought after prospect going into this year, where a lot of people thought he was going to be a top 10 pick. I'm not entirely sure what happened with him. But him, Travis Jones, I think Perion Winfrey, I think there's a lot of defensive line options there that you can go with. Either Perion Winfrey is really intriguing at 38 there, but Travis Jones is too.
Bino says no more polls anymore. I'm gonna have to take a Valium. They are stressful, I will say. It's always a little bit of a dice roll there. All right, so who's your guy? I'm gonna give you the pick here, buddy.
Yeah. For the interior defensive line.
Sorry, I had like a spastic moment. My headset wasn't working. So you said, who are you taking?
Logan Hall out of Houston.
Perfect.
There.
Sorry about that. The headphones went out. All right, so we took Logan Hall there. And let's go ahead to all selections here. And we will probably need to look at the linebacker position. Offensive line can certainly be addressed here in round 3. Tight end could be addressed in round 3. Let's go ahead and look quickly at who went after pick 38. Daniel Falele, Boye Mafe, 41 to the Seahawks. Christian Harris to the Browns. Yeah, a bunch of defensive linemen went, so that was probably a smart move. Christian Watson went 48 to the Bears. Perion Winfrey. Chad Muma goes 56 to the Cowboys. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Arnold Ebiketie. Cameron Thomas, my boy. So a lot of defensive linemen in that in that second to third round. They went really, really fast. So that was a good call. Certainly the value was there. And we still look pretty good. I mean, I know it's a defensive heavy draft here. But again, the defensive line is going to be emphasized. I actually talked a little bit about that in the stream a couple of nights ago. It feels like this is going to be the draft where they maybe take an interior defensive lineman earlier than we're predicting. Joe Douglas has emphasized the offensive line the last couple of years in the draft. So maybe this is going to be the year where he really goes hog wild on some big boys up front. And you know that Robert Saleh is going to want to do that. I think that's the other thing. You have to think that they're going to want to get stronger up front on the defensive line. So I like it. I really like this draft actually quite a bit. I would say other than George Pickens, I would maybe do Watson, but that's about all I could say. All right, let's go to the big board here, and we will probably make most of these picks. It's getting kind of late. I got to go to work.
Yeah, me too.
So we are at pick 69 here. Trey McBride is available. I think that makes a ton of sense, but maybe a little early considering who we have. Brandon Smith, the linebacker, is available.
Scott Moore is still there.
Yeah, we can take another wide receiver. Me personally, right here, I'm liking the linebacker or the tight end here. That's just my personal, or offensive lineman, actually. Let's take a look at offensive line. Sean Ryan. Ed Ingram might be a little bit of a reach here, to be perfectly honest with you. So maybe not the right spot to take O-line. What are you feeling, James? What's your preference here? Breece Hall is available.
So I'm like really, since we have like the two really big tight ends, right? And Uzomah and Conklin, and they kind of offer different things in the passing game, and then they can block. I'm kind of wondering how Isaiah Likely would be able to fit into that room to really kind of give the home run hitting aspect, the vertical threat at the tight end spot. He can move a lot and do a lot of different things because we have the blocking presence already, and he can do some of that, but he can really change up the entire room. And now we have the two big guys and then the one guy who can really take the top off at the tight end spot. I don't know. It's just kind of an intriguing thought to see what everyone thinks about kind of shifting to a guy like Likely at the tight end spot, given what we've added in free agency.
You could say the same thing for Dulcich too, right? Like that field stretching.
Right,
I think
yeah.
he fits into that category too. So you could definitely make the case for that as well. How in the world is Breece still there? Yeah, I mean, he probably is like a second round pick, do you think? Maybe third round pick in worst case?
I'm not really sure how high these running backs are going to go. It's nothing against them, but the position, people are just really, they're taking a hit every year because that 6th round, 7th round pick all of a sudden bursts out for, whatever it is. And it's a short lifespan contract wise. So I don't know how high they're actually going to go, but
somebody mentioned Troy Anderson, the linebacker. I could get behind that as well. He is a very, very explosive athlete at that position. Very, very versatile as well. Can cover, can go after the run. I actually don't hate that at all either. So you mentioned tight end here. I'm going to go ahead and say linebacker. This one's hard. I let you pick that last player. I'm going to take one here. I'm going to go ahead and take a linebacker. And I'm going to go ahead and take Mr. Troy Anderson here.
Nice.
I feel like getting a linebacker in the 3rd round, you can get your tight end. We have 2 4ths, 2 5ths. I like the idea of being able to have a choice with the tight ends. There's going to be so many available. So we're going to take Troy Anderson, the linebacker here. And here we are with our picks. We have addressed every level of the defense. And I think that overall, lots of help. It's going to be the defense would be night and day different. Yeah, Joe Grana, we're getting some flack for taking JJ at 10, but I think that's a sweet spot, man. I think that's a great spot for him.
Ooh, Dulcich is right there.
Yeah, I think this is where we go ahead and take our tight end, right? Like Isaiah Likely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's get your boy. You had mentioned Isaiah Likely before. We'll go ahead and take him. I'm cool with it. I am cool with taking Isaiah Likely. Now we've got explosive athletes at multiple positions. Wow, these 4th rounders are close together too, just like round 2.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Okay, so what the hell are we taking now? Safety's pretty dried up. That's unfortunate. That is one position we have failed to address. Let's go to the all. Kyron Williams is there. Jeremy Ruckert. We already took our tight end. We could potentially take another one, but I think that's too many.
Yeah.
Tyler Algier makes a lot of sense. We didn't take a running back yet, and he is available. What are your thoughts on Tyler Algier versus Kyron?
Well, I had them right. I think I had them 4 and 5. Algier is really interesting because of the Zach Wilson connection too. So I think that's a factor. If we're going, if we're going running back, I think Algier is a really nice option because of that chemistry he'll already have.
Yep.
With Zach Wilson, he provides a little thumper ability to him, right? A little bit of a bruiser there. And so Algier, I think he fits nice. I think Kyron Williams fits nice also in terms of what he can do out of the backfield. Pierre Strong Jr. is there. There's a lot of value in this round.
Yeah, and now I'm hearing James talk. I'm sorry, not James. I'm hearing Grant talk about offensive linemen here. He's saying take the Walker.
Rasheed Walker,
the Penn State offensive tackle. This might be a good spot to also go ahead and get your developmental offensive lineman. We talked about the need for that. I actually am sold. Are you okay with that if we do the offensive lineman here?
I'm good with that. I think some of these guys are going to be there in the 5th round.
Yeah, we'll go with Rasheed. I like the idea. So we'll take Rasheed and we'll go running back in round 5. I will go back and scan through players that we miss out on. It looks like there will be a running back. Oh, there goes Brian Robinson. He's gone. And now Algier is gone. But we've got 2 guys that we talked a lot about tonight, actually. So we've got Rachaad White and Dameon Pierce both looking at us in the face. Let's look at the safety real quick because that's another one I'm really kicking myself over. Ooh, look at that. It's super dried up, really bad. Any chance Smoke Monday here over one of these running backs or no?
No, yeah, I wouldn't force it. I think we can get some really good value here I like Rachaad White. I mean, Dameon Pierce is the bruiser, low pad value, level, all that fun stuff. But I think Rachaad White really kind of adds that passing game element that we're looking for on 3rd down. We can line him up in a lot of different places. And then I think his vision is really good too. So I think he would be a nice addition to the running back room there.
Okay. So you're saying Rachaad White, right?
Yep.
I think I agree. Kev Chad is saying next mock, I propose we only trade down from 4. I am okay with trading down from 4, but I also want to trade up from 35. I want to see what that scenario looks like because we have not actually done that. White is the pass catcher / blocker, isn't he? White, I think, is an adequate blocker. I think he still needs some work, but I think that he is a very, very versatile receiver out of the backfield. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and make him a pick. And I think we have 1 left. And to be perfectly frank with you, we need to get off because I might roll into school to the classroom tomorrow, and the kids might be scared to look at my face. I look like a freaking zombie coming into the work. All right, let's go to the big board here. Dameon Pierce, linebackers are available. I'm looking for a safety if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Oh my God. Florida A&M, Marquise Bell. So I'm going to be honest with you. This is probably a fail on our part. To not have gotten a safety at this point, I think is not good. But I guess you can bank on the fact that they have, they've signed the safety frig. I can't think of his name. Jordan Whitehead. Sorry.
Jordan Whitehead. Yep.
Yeah. LaMarcus Joyner, Ashton Davis, Jason Pinnock, who I think Pinnock actually does have a realistic chance to be a contributor on defense for us. So I guess that's just the one position that we miss out on. Cause otherwise I really like this mock a lot. I think
So what about, if you go back to one of the linebackers
for available?
Yeah. Brian Asamoah. That was one guy that I saw a lot that was ranked pretty highly linebacker wise, but he's a smaller linebacker. He's like 220 pounds. But he flies around the field. So I'm kind of curious, like playmaker wise, like they tried to take bigger safeties last year and move them down to linebacker. Is it possible that a guy like Brian Asamoah, he's a smaller linebacker? Can you move him around as a chess piece? Maybe he plays a little bit of safety too. I'm not entirely sure, but it's an interesting pick because he's a good football player all around.
Okay. And Quentin Lake is somebody that Harold has mentioned a couple of times. I don't even know who that is. So let's find out who he is. I'm going to search for him. What position does he play? Quentin Lake. Maybe he's already gone? I don't know. He said he was available. I don't see him anywhere on here, buddy.
Oh, wait, I saw him.
Oh, you did?
I think so. Yeah, move down. A little bit down. Or I guess up.
Sorry.
Oh, there. Yeah, right there.
There we go. Hey, man, listen. We need a safety. It's just a little early, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, screw it.
Lake is there. I'm shocked. I do hear you, though. You're saying that the linebacker's value is pretty good there. Although I will say the rumor right now is that these guys, Jamie Sherwood and Hamza Nasruddin are working their butts off this offseason. That's the early reporting that I'm hearing.
That's good.
I'm going to go ahead and take the safety. I feel like having another guy to compete with the room that we have, I think is important. If you don't like that, I do apologize, guys. And I got to be honest with you, this was a lot of freaking fun tonight, as it always is. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for tonight's episode 46. We don't have a guest lined up for next week, but I might start looking for, a third wheel here for next week. And I'm going to start fishing for that. I'm going to try to get somebody that hasn't been on the channel before. No promises because I haven't talked to anybody yet. I did mention Jake Asman will be coming on at some point. I'm going to try to get him on maybe 2 to 3 weeks before the draft and get him on. He's a great source, lots of insider perspective there. So anyway, that's going to conclude this episode. James, anything you want to finish up the show with?
No, it was a fun night. Talked about a lot, and the Jets are headed in the right direction. So we're gonna keep going this way, and it's gonna be a fun rest of free agency.
Yes, and thank you, Kev Chata. Thank you for giving us an A+, even though we did go past Mr. Brisker. I will say that is my regret for the night, is not getting that guy. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's going to be it for Jets today. Hope you all have a great night, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out, y'all.
Good night, guys.